Tempers, I don't know, not so much. The heat is definitely on in Atlanta. Welcome to the penultimate race before the chase. Welcome to Atlanta and NASCAR Countdown. All eyes tonight are on the drivers trying to make the postseason. Like Jeff Gordon, the winner of this race 1 year ago. Tonight, he'll start fifth. Carl Edwards won his first ever Cup race at this track, but it's been 57 races since Edwards last visited Victory Lane. Tonight, he'll start 12th. The current holder of wild card spot number 2, well, that is Kyle Busch. He starts 3rd. But in the past 10 races at mile-and-a-half tracks, Busch has scored just 2 top 5s. And the Coors Light Pole Award winner is Tony Stewart. Tonight, he could become just the 8th driver to lead 1,000 laps at Atlanta. He's going into this race just 34 laps shy of that mark. And from the middle of pit road with quite the view of Victory Lane. That'll come in handy a little bit later.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the ESPN Pit Studio. I'm Nicole Briscoe alongside Rusty Wallace and Brad Doherty. There are 43 individual drivers out there tonight, but I'm really interested about these 3 groups. You've got the drivers who have already clinched their spot in the chase. Then you've got the guys who probably should be okay, but a little dicey. And then you've got the guys, the wild card drivers, the guys that have to perform, and they've got to do it now.
Yes, they absolutely do. I mean, the sand has already run through the hourglass as far as I'm concerned. If you're looking beyond this race saying, well, I've still got Richmond available to me, you're out of luck. You're done. You have to win tonight. Bottom line, no excuses, no other choices.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I like the guys that are locked in. That's the ones I like so much because as a driver, if you're locked in, man, you don't have no pressure. You get out there, get it on, you can drive hard, you can take chances, and you don't have to worry about am I in or am I out and all this different pressure. As a crew chief and a driver, it's hammer down, go have fun, and win another race.
And those guys are fighting like the Jimmy Johnsons.
Yes.
They're fighting for the #1 seed going into the chase.
Correct.
What about a guy like Kevin Harvick? No wins and only 37 points outside the top 10. That's a little bit of an interesting situation. Same thing could be said for the pole sitter tonight.
Yeah, tremendous amount of pressure for Kevin Harvick. You need those bonus points, in particular, even if you are in the chase. Once you get to racing head-to-head trying to win this championship. And the guys who have clinched, so to speak, I think there's a lot of pressure on those guys to go out and try to win the race as well, simply because whether it's basketball, baseball, or football, once you clinch in the regular season, the tendency is to let down. Then you go into the postseason and you don't perform. So you need to keep that razor sharp. Go out tonight, get after it, just like Rusty said, and try to win the
Brad,
race.
I tell you
My
what,
football team did that last year.
the guys that are locked in right now, I mean, the guy I'm concerned about is Kevin Harvick, just like you said
Sure.
earlier. I mean, this guy's got no wins. He's only 37 points to the good. He's been having problems.
Yeah.
Everything's not where he wants it. But he almost got mentally right last night by almost winning that nationwide
And
race.
we will talk
Almost.
a little bit about
Yeah.
Kevin Harvick a
Almost.
little bit later. When we come back, it was the helmet toss seen around the world. But it was what Tony Stewart said afterward that had us wondering where his head is tonight. And from the helmet toss to the water bottle toss, where do Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski stand after last night's, shall we say, disagreement? And it was 20 years ago that we last saw Richard Petty behind the wheel of the 43 car, yet he is still the king of this sport. And it was also 20 years that we were introduced to a young driver with a really bad haircut. Coming up next, we'll talk to the guy who gave him his job. Mr. H joins us live in studio next. over the last 20 years, the 4 Brickyard wins, his 4 championships, and being credited with taking NASCAR from Main Street to Wall Street. What do you say is his most significant accomplishment in this sport?
Well, I think, you know, when you look at all the drivers that have been accepted from open wheel, that have come into this sport, that probably would have never gotten a shot if it hadn't been for Jeff Gordon. I mean, when I put him in a car at his young age of 20, everybody thought I was crazy. But I saw the talent he had, and I felt like it was worth the effort. And boy, did it pay off. But then you look at Tony Stewart and then Ryan Newman, and you look at all the guys from all the other divisions that came into our sport. I think they owe Jeff a lot for opening the door.
Rick, I tell you what, you just said you met him almost 20 years ago, and you know him really good. He's won a ton of races. Looking at his team right now, looking at Jeff right now in his career, what do you think's going on this year? It looks like he's been struggling just a little bit more than the other teams.
Well, when you look at, if we had Martinsville back, 1 lap to go, he's leading the race. If you know, he's running up front leading the race, you know, out in Kansas, and we had a failure. We've had just the most unbelievable bad luck now, and I think that kind of gets into the team when you consistently have those kind of weekends. But Jeff's always been able to, he and Alan both carry it on the back. The car's had speed. We haven't seen the car when he was out to lunch getting lapped in the race early, any of that. It's just been, it's been a pit stop problem or speeding on pit road. Jeff Gordon never speeds on pit road. And it's just, we've just had that kind of year. But, you know, we've got to win now. He's got to win tonight. And he's pumped up. We have 800 employees here, and man, we just had a big party at the tent. And I asked him in front of all the people. I said, "Man, you going to do it tonight?" He said, "I'm going to do it."
Rick, when you look at Jeff Gordon, and you've been around this sport for many decades and seen the greatest of the great come through, where does Jeff Gordon rank all time in this stock car era?
Well, I think he's. When you look at what he's accomplished, I think he's got to be one of the greatest of all times. I think you look at the 4 championships and you look at the 85 wins, and I think he's not done. So, you know, and again, he's been such an ambassador for our sport. The night he did Saturday Night Live, I couldn't believe it. I said, I couldn't believe he did that, you know.
Right.
But I've seen him grow up from just a kid to, you know, married with kids, and what he's done for charity in the hospital. I mean, hospitals around the country. The guy's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's not just Jeff Gordon, though, at Hendrick Motorsports. You have an all-star lineup with what some would consider the Yankees in motorsports. How difficult, what are the challenges of maintaining a high level of performance with not just 1, but 4 teams? Because the expectations for you are a little bit different.
Well, you know, we said earlier this year we wanted all the cars in the chase. All the guys have won races, and so that, you know, we look at the 7 wins and where we are today. I feel like we're the most competitive we've been in years as a group, and so I'm looking forward to this race tonight. I think we're gaining tremendous momentum. Casey is running so well. I mean, Rusty knows to have a couple of tenths on the field at Bristol, and got into somebody else's oil there. You know, I just feel good. Jimmy's running good. Dale has been so consistent. I've never looked so forward to a chase with all of the guys as I have this year.
You know, once again, Rick, you've been a leader and a great steward of this sport. As we look at the sport right now going forward, how healthy is this sport going into the future? What do you see?
Well, I really believe in this sport. I mean, you know, I just saw a pan of a car with HendrickCars.com on it. I believe I've seen what this sport can do, and I see the TV's the best it's ever been. Thank you guys. So, you know, it's. I think we're.
I hate to interrupt you real quick, but we have to welcome our fans that are just joining us after the college football game just ended. Welcome. Inside the ESPN and Pitch Studio with Mr. Rick Hendrick. And NASCAR Countdown, we're inside the ESPN and Pitch Studio with Mr. Rick Hendrick. Let's go back to where you're saying that the health of the sport is. And again, my apologies.
I think the competition's the best I've ever seen. I've been in this for almost 25 years, going on 30 years. And when you go to a race and you've got 20 guys that can win, or you see the win spread out among so many guys, the competition is the best I've seen. I think the future of the sport is great. I mean, the way you cover the sport, the in-car shots, the race footage, the fans can get a piece of it, and really they want to see competition. And I think the helmet throwing is good. I think a lot of things that happen that bring out the real, true competition of these drivers is great.
Rick, I tell you one thing that I was really amazed of that you did and how good it worked was shaking up these crew chiefs. When you put Steve Letarte with Dale Earnhardt Jr., it's like a light switch went off, and that team just took off. How hard of a decision was it to shake that team up and do that?
It was a hard decision to make, but I've seen Steve Letarte and how he interacts with people and how he's such a cheerleader, and he's a great crew chief and a great motivator. And I felt like putting, when I put Dale over there in the building with Chad and Jimmy, that with Stevie, that was going to elevate Dale and challenge Stevie. And at the same time, Jeff has always had this real respect for Alan, so it made sense to me to put them over in that building because I knew I had Casey Kane coming and Kenny Francis, and I felt like the two engineer crew chiefs would gel. And I've never expected Kenny Francis and the rest of our crew chiefs to bond as quickly as they have.
Hey, Brad, there's one thing coming to my mind here. Have you ever noticed that Mr. Hendricks seems like everything he does is right?
No.
You better not be messing with this guy, okay?
No, I wish that was true. That's not
It
true.
is no secret that Chad Knaus has been quite successful. He's been known to push the envelope and try to find the next best thing. Right now, that 48 car and a couple other cars in your stable, they're doing something different that the other teams in the garage are trying to copy.
Winning? Was that?
Well said.
Oh, man.
What's your next question?
Nothing now.
Nobody's cars has been at the tech center as many times as our cars have been. So, I mean, everything we're doing is legal. If the guys that find an adjustment can do something that's within the NASCAR rules, then that's what this is all about. But trust me, there's no cars have been to that tech center as much as our cars have been.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrick. We very much appreciate you coming in. I like it. What are we doing? We're winning. For those of you watching us on ESPN News, when we come back, we'll be back on ESPN. And when we come back, the sunglasses, the cowboy hat, the boots. Ask anyone, any sport, and they know who he is. To this day, 20 years after his final race. It's the Richard Petty effect when we come back.
Richard Petty is 75 years old, an American icon that drove the 43 into victory lane in 50 towns as distant as 2,400 miles from Level Cross, North Carolina, the place he has called home since 1937. Me, I was raised 60 miles away in Concord, where my brother and I learned to play music. It's hard not to put yourself into your trade, and it's hard not to take your roots wherever you go. In that regard, music is like racing. Richard Petty is the ruling driver in NASCAR, the King. Though the album of his accomplishments also provides a time signature for for America's story. It underscores the rhythm of a time, our time. Through a 75-year journey, the king of stock car racing tied the nation's largest spectator sport to the events and reaction that shaped the nation's history.
You could put Richard Petty in any category of the 60 years that NASCAR's been in existence, and he'd fit right in.
The King's reigning timeline spans 8 presidencies. Their national memories amplified by the scores of his records in the rock and roll era. This was an often discordant time of riot, protest, and violence that found harmony in the unified effort of Petty enterprises.
Oh, I'd love to sit down right here.
Society was in upheaval. Invasions, assassinations, resignations. But fixed fascination followed the 43, which landed in the winner's circle as the space age launched a new era. Petty's trophies shared the same sports pages prized by other athletes, from no-hitters to heavy hitters, from long-distance races and records, to drivers of a new generation, stars born in the shadow of a win total they still chase.
That's what makes him the king. I've won over 80 races, and I don't think I'm ever accomplishing what Richard has.
His number is safe. It is absolutely amazing what he did in that period of time.
He was a pioneer. And he's one of the greatest champions, if not the greatest champion the sport's ever seen.
Richard Petty's legacy will be that of excellence as a professional and as a man.
Driven by shades of red, white, and blue, Richard Petty changed the way we watched, rooted, rallied, and remembered our evolving heritage.
It's the final race for a guy who started his career back in 1958 and has become the king of stock car racing.
This is the legacy of Richard Petty. Extraordinary achievements by an ordinary man. That ties an athlete to a fan, a sport to a nation. This is a national association, for stock car auto racing is a collective passion, and Richard Petty stands as America's cherished standard bearer. This is Richard Petty at 75.
That smile, always smiling. And I'm not sure there's a track on the schedule, especially the big tracks, where there is not a Richard Petty grandstand. 7 championships with wins at 50 different tracks. Of course, that big number, 200 wins in the Sprint Cup Series. In 1992, he was the first motorsports athlete to win the Medal of Freedom. And of course, he was the first class at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. You've known him for a very long time. How has your appreciation and your respect for him changed and grown throughout the years?
I've always appreciated Richard Petty, but I just appreciate him more. I mean, he's at every single racetrack, guys. Yeah. He loves this sport. He's been so great for the sport, and he really just involved in it every day. I mean, to see Richard Petty show up at every single race still blows me away. But, Brad, there's one thing that I really appreciate about Richard Petty is his fans.
Sure.
I mean, every time a fan comes up to Richard Petty today, still, Nicole, he signs everybody's autograph.
Everyone.
He's constantly signing autographs, and it's that real slow, loopy autograph, that real pretty autograph, you know, or beautiful, whatever you ladies call them. But
that's right.
I'm really impressed with what he does, and I think he caught your eye too, didn't he?
Yeah, the fan. I was a young man. My dad's hero was Richard Petty, and when I was knee-high to a giraffe, when you're as big as me, that's putting it into perspective. I fell in love with Richard Petty because my dad loved Richard Petty. I met him when I was a young boy, spent some time talking to Richard Petty, and we've been friends for 35 years now, 40 years. But the one thing about Richard Petty that's interesting is his iconic status throughout any type of sport. You say Richard Petty in the world of the NBA or NFL or Major League Baseball, everyone knows who Richard Petty, the king, is. And because of my love of Richard Petty, I fell in love with this sport of stock car racing.
What about the number, though?
43. I wore the number 43.
I was going to say, what number did you wear in the NBA?
I wore the number in the NBA. I wore it in high school. I fell in love with this sport. So I started working on race cars. I've driven race cars. I love this sport. I know I look like a basketball guy, but inside I'm a racer, and that's because of Richard Petty.
He still
never
really
would
cares.
have known. The height wouldn't have given it away.
Knee-high to a giraffe.
Coverage of Major League Baseball continues Tuesday night on ESPN, but I don't actually know why I'm doing this, so this is your job.
Hey,
Here,
bring it on
take
here. Let's see
that.
what we got here. All right, first at 7 o'clock, Team captain and Major League leader in hits, Derek Jeter, leads Dale Jarrett's favorite team, the Yankees, against division rivals, Rays, who are battling for a wild card race. Then at 10, Adrian Gonzalez and the new-look Dodgers look to keep pace in the NL West when they host the San Diego Padres. Major League Baseball Tuesday on ESPN. Both games also live on the WatchESPN.com and the Watch ESPN app.
I'll tell you what, man, that's a good job. Great job.
Nice job.
Absolutely.
When we come back, temper. Danica Patrick showed some feistiness last weekend in Bristol. Danica's here again tonight, pulling double duty. What challenges will she face? And then this, last night, one driver who says he was innocently discarding a water bottle, the other one who's not buying it. And of course, there's also this, one nicely thrown element in Bristol. But will the tempers and grudges get the best of these drivers tonight? We'll also remember some of the greatest moments in Atlanta Motor Speedway history. All of that when we come back. Atlanta to Hampton, Georgia. That's where you'll find us at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And if the first two races of the weekend, the Truck Series, won by Austin Dillon, and the Nationwide Series, won by Ricky Stenhouse Jr., are any indication, we're in for a good one tonight. It's also a double-duty weekend for some drivers, including one Danica Patrick. She raced here last night for her first ever Atlanta start. She finished 13th. Tonight, she'll start 23rd. And let's give her some credit, because she performed last weekend in Bristol. Her first ever Cup start at this track. She was on the lead lap. And it wasn't until she ran into trouble with Regan Smith that it ended her night.
Yeah, Regan gives her old chrome horn there and punches him. But yeah, I've been giving her credit all along. I think she did a very good job, and she continues to grow.
Another first for her tonight, Shams Fake.
It's a busy weekend for Danica Patrick as Tony Stewart getting in on the fun. A busy weekend for you between Cup and Nationwide, but the good thing about that is lots and lots of laps. 133 practice laps between both, plus last night's race. What's your comfort level right here?
I saw Denny earlier, and I told him I was a little nervous about tonight, and he said, why? I said, because I was loose last night, and I thought that since I was looser in the Cup car than the Nationwide car, I thought I'd probably be looser again tonight than I was even last night. But he said he didn't think that the Cup cars went as loose in the race as the Nationwide cars seem to when it gets to nighttime. So I hope that's the case. You know, I know that we finally, at the end of practice, got the car a little bit tighter, and in fact, so tight enough that I didn't have a rear end issue. Did I feel great? No, not necessarily. But the good news is I feel like in the races, the speed, you know, the pace comes down a little bit, and everybody's going to be dealing with a difficult car. I mean, this is just a challenging track, and you got to stay on top of it. And Tony was just telling me to just kind of try things out. This is a learning race for me. I want to do well, of course, but you know, I also know that the point is to learn. So I'm lucky enough that GoDaddy gives me the chance to run these 10 races, and that Stewart House put me in them. So that's what I'm going to do.
Busy weekend for Danica Patrick. She qualified 23rd for tonight's race, Nicole.
Thanks. You know, Tony Stewart designed her schedule for this season based on tracks that would challenge her learning curve. We saw her at Darlington. We saw her last weekend at Bristol. That is why she's here, because this track is not easy. There are a lot of challenges they have to face tonight.
No, exactly right. It's not easy at all. And tire wear is the biggest challenge she's going to have to take a look at. Of all the tracks we run on the NASCAR circuit, this is the toughest track to get a good handle on, because the tires wear out so easy, because the track is so abrasive. That's something she's going to have to negotiate tonight, but I don't have to tell her that. She's had every driver out there telling her that, and she got to experience that last night in the nationwide race.
It's going to be a tremendous test on her patience tonight as this tire starts to wear out and fall off. I mean, you're looking at a race car.
Not just her either.
Well, no, but for Danica, I mean, we're talking about a right rear tire that's picking up 200 more horsepower tonight. And they're actually trying to rip the tread off of that tire. It's so slick here. So she's going to have to deal with a lot. She's going to learn a lot. This track is so hard to get a hold of and to keep up with throughout the night. It's frustrating.
Pit window here is 45 to 50 laps. You won't go that long because you're going to need tires before you actually need fuel. And getting onto pit road in last night's Nationwide Series race, well, a bit dicey for some of these guys. 9 pit road speeding penalties, 7 for too fast entering, and 4 of them were handed up to 2 drivers, Brad Keselowski and Casey Kane, in back-to-back laps. Casey Kane was 70 miles an hour heading on the pit road.
I'd say, take a look at all these smoking tires and stuff, and what happens, Nicole, you're running about 180 miles an hour, enter turn 3, and you got to dive off at turn 3 onto the flat of the racetrack, and you're going so much faster than you think you are. And then at the last minute, you get all over the brakes, and those tires are all wore out, and you slide those tires real bad. And those guys got busted. They've got to really watch that tonight because, again, this is probably one of the only racetracks that is that tough to get on pit road.
We want to know what you think. How will these drivers navigate the challenges of Atlanta Motor Speedway? Join our conversation on Twitter. Use the hashtag PitStudio at NASCAR ESPN. Lately, we've also been asking you to tweet your seats. This is the coolest seat we've seen yet. It's the Seador iconic from the T-38C Talon aircraft. 4 of them from Sheppard Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas, will provide the flyover for tonight's race. Here's my challenge. Top that one. And when we come back, temper from Matt Kenseth versus Tony Stewart to Brad Keselowski versus Kevin Harvick. Will these guys play nice tonight?
They're going to play nice. No way.
We'll discuss when we come back.
Somebody tweet me a pizza down at the pit studio. How about that? Put that thing to use.
Back at Atlanta Motor Speedway, a track that's really never shied away from the spotlight. 20 years ago, it gave us not just 1, not just 2, it gave us 3 big moments in this sport's history.
Sometimes life is a game of numbers. Numbers like 20. As in 20 years since the 1992 Hooters 500. How about 160,000 fans?
The largest crowd ever to watch a sporting event in the state of Georgia to witness the crowning of a champion.
Number 43, Richard Petty, a legend.
1,185 starts in a 35-year career. 200 wins, nearly twice as many as any other driver.
Number 24, Jeff Gordon, a rookie.
I think it's fantastic that Jeff Gordon is running his first race when Richard Petty is running his last race.
The number 30, Davey Allison's points lead, and only 500 miles to go for the championship.
Oh, crash! Davey Allison is in the crash! Davey Allison's long, tough, emotional season has come to an end.
Number 7, Alan Kulwicki, an underdog.
Kulwicki was supposed to stop on lap 306. He ran to 309, got him in front, and a lap leader bonus.
Number 11, Bill Elliott, a veteran.
It's a fairly substantial lead for Bill Elliott. Bill leads the rest of the way. Allen will have led the most by 1 single circuit.
4 corners, 10 points, 1 championship.
He's not concerned about winning the race. He wants to win the war at this stage.
The white flag is out. We are focused in on Alan Kulwicki. Coming off of corner number 4, knowing that he's winning the championship. There's the checkered flag for Alan. So as NASCAR is crowned a brand new champion, we bid another very special farewell.
1 king, a lifetime of memories.
What a day. And tonight could be quite the night. The stage has certainly been set for another memorable night here in Atlanta, thanks to we'll call them events, a few events that have unfolded over the past week. Some right here in Atlanta. Others 1 week ago under the lights in Bristol.
The clock is ready and the drivers are ready. This is Bristol. Let's go!
memorable bump in the night beat tonight around the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Green flag is out, and on the break, it is Matt Kenseth with Tony Stewart in hot pursuit.
And I can't believe we're talking about Tony Stewart in second. They made some nice adjustments as he battles for the lead now.
Tony Stewart from the back end after going a lap down has wrestled the lead away from Matt Kenseth. The Kenseth will battle back on the bottom.
Now tries to squeeze Tony Stewart up to the top of the racetrack. They touch. They slide down the front stretch. Matt Kenseth gets into the wall. Tony Stewart crashes, and the leaders take each other out. Tony Stewart out on the track and chucked his helmet.
All right, bud. There may be a helmet rolling on the track up here. Who was the target? Tony threw his helmet at Matt. It was actually a good shot. He hit him right in the fender.
And the Russian judge gives him a 9.7.
I don't really have anything bad to say about Tony. For whatever reason, this year he ran me off the track at serious points. Said he was sorry. It cost me 7 spots in the finishing order. And Indy, his Mag Society blocked him. And I asked for 5 minutes this time to clear the air, and he wouldn't give it to me. Pretty much got cussed out.
We were definitely faster than Matt after that restart. Checked up twice to not run over him, and I learned my lesson there. I'm going to run over him every chance I got from now to the end of the year, every chance I got.
Every chance I got. Stewart has backed off his claims to run for Matt Kenseth over every single time. That said, what do you expect? What are we going to see out of them tonight?
Well, I don't think they're going to rough each other up too bad tonight, but it's on their mind still, especially Tony Stewart. I mean, that was two knuckleheads going at it last week. I think that's the first time I've ever seen two guys leading the race wreck each other at a place like Bristol, which is so cool and such a great track. But I'll tell you, they're great racers, and they won't forget about that, especially Tony Stewart. He is mad at Matt Kenseth, I do believe, and I think at the right time he's going to take him out again. I think he will.
But they're
I'm
both
not going to say
running for
again.
a championship. We said last week there's 180 laps to go. What are they doing?
But they got tempers, a lot of tempers there. And when you get all jacked up in that car and you're excited and you're mad and you're sweating, you just don't think real clear like you just said.
Yeah, I think it was the heat.
You of that
I really think it was the heat of the moment response with some hard racing history attached to it. Both of these guys, these are two apex competitors in this series. But I find the combatants interesting when I look at it, though. Tony Stewart, very fiery, very, very aggressive. And then you have Matt Kenseth. He's as cool as menthol, baby. But both of them get it done. They know what they have to do. Maybe won't give each other as much room as in the past, but I think they'll move on.
Rusty Wallace, I wrote this down. Sometimes drivers don't think. Vince Welch, I think we may have to keep that in mind as we proceed here.
Considering all the headlines off the track for Matt Kenseth last week and maybe even coming up on Tuesday of this week, this situation with Tony, where are you guys? What have you decided? What conclusions have you reached about last week, and how are you going to race it moving forward?
Same as always. I mean, I think everything's okay. I hate it that we got in that position that we wrecked last week. And, you know, Tony's, you know, one of the greatest drivers ever. Probably one of the greatest drivers in the garage, if not the greatest driver. So I think we've always shown each other a lot of respect on the track. And I don't think that's going to change. I think we move past it and, you know, race each other with respect and move on.
Should see these two guys racing hard into the chase. Matt Kenseth is locked in. Let's go to Mike Massaro.
And the folks at the Atlanta Motor Speedway had a little fun with the helmet tossing incident earlier this week, giving Tony Stewart an Atlanta Braves jersey, thinking maybe you might be a good addition to their pitching staff. In all seriousness, though, how do you put what happened last week behind you and move forward here tonight?
Easy. I mean, I've been racing 32 years. It's not the first time I got into it with somebody. So, you know, once you get home and the emotion wears off, you get back to business. And Matt and I talked on, I guess it was Friday, so we're all good. It's easy to put it behind you. I mean, he's, of all people, in all honesty, he's probably the easiest guy to race. There's some other guys that might have a long chase and a long 11 or 12 weeks if they don't straighten up a little bit, but he's not really one I'm worried about doing that. So we get it done, and you know, we announced today that we're you know, parting ways with Office Depot at the end of the year. They're parting ways with us, but really want to say thanks to them because they've been an awesome partner, and they were the first company when we started Stewart Haas Racing to sign up with us, and it's gonna be hard to lose them, but you know, we got a great spot for somebody that wants to be on there now, and you know, starting this weekend with a pole is a good way to show everybody what Stewart Haas is about. So proud of that, and just want to say thanks to everybody at Office Depot. We're gonna finish this year out strong for them.
And no better way to say thank you than with a victory tonight, something you've done several times here in Atlanta. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that was the incident between Tony Stewart and Matt Kenseth. There is another incident that has us talking. This one came last night during the Nationwide Series race. Now, Kevin Harvick led a very dominant 157
yes,
laps.
He did.
However, He did not lead the very last lap. And Harvick was led to believe that this bottle throwing incident from Brad Keselowski was to blame for his loss of momentum.
What bottle?
NASCAR threw a debris caution exactly 1 minute and 32 seconds after that bottle was tossed from the 22 car to be 100% clear. NASCAR said the caution was for debris, that there was a piece of aluminum on the track. Nonetheless, Harvick was none too pleased with Keselowski post-race. That happened on pit road. A little conversation, shall we say, and some awkwardness in the press conference for Austin Dillon.
Yeah, watch Austin Dillon here. This is fun.
Stuck in the middle of this. Harvick gets up to leave, and watch what he does. A little tap on the face for Brad Keselowski.
Like,
and a minute or so earlier, before he got up, he told Brad, "Sleep well tonight." Now, if you're curious, Brad Keselowski starts 21st. Kevin Harvick will line up in the 24 spot tonight. Jeff Burton chimed in on this little incident, saying they say the caution wasn't for the bottle, so that is what it is. But the intent was clear. There is no place for that in racing. End of story.
Jeff Burton, I didn't know he knew how to tweet.
We asked Kevin Harvick to join us. He declined, saying he's declining all interviews until after the chase begins. That said, we do have Brad Keselowski standing by. Dave Burns.
Well, a couple of things in play for Brad. What happened last night, plus making the chase. So how do you approach tonight's race?
Hopefully with a solid car and a solid outing. You know, we've been very fortunate to have a great season all year long, and would like to clinch up the chase stuff before we head to Richmond, and feel like we've got a good shot at doing that.
When it comes to pre-chase races for a guy with 3 wins, what does Atlanta represent?
You know, it's just another opportunity to go out there and prove yourself and prove things for your team. You know, our car's been kind of up and down, and we know we might not be the fastest, but I know I've got a team that's going to work with me and do the best we can all day strong.
And real quick, you're kind of digging out of a hole. 21st in qualifying. What happened there?
We know we just haven't been very strong in qualifying. We need a little bit more speed, but our execution in the race has been great, and I'll take that over speed every day.
Brad Keselowski at Atlanta tonight, looking to clinch the chase.
Well, according to the rule book, tossing your water bottle from the car is not a penalty.
No, it is not. It is not against the rules in any way, shape, form. But in the core of sportsmanship, it is something to be looked at. But it is not against the rules of NASCAR.
Do you think he knew he had a camera on him when he threw the bottle out the window?
He had an in-car camera.
I think he forgot.
Forgot that part.
Need to remind him of the Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus incident from Talladega last year.
Yeah, I remember that one.
By the way, what is the fine for littering in Hampton, Georgia?
$100.
Because we asked.
Yeah.
Race fans, check out NASCAR.com/racebuddy to watch live coverage from Atlanta. You can follow your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. Log on to NASCAR.com/racebuddy. And when we come back, the other elephant in the room. There are just 2 races before the chase, and there are now how many drivers fighting for a wild card spot? That answer's kind of easy because it's too many. So who looks good tonight? We'll tell you coming up next.
I just drop a few wrappers out in the parking lot, a little Reese cup. I get a $100 ticket.
But you can throw a bottle
$100
out of the car.
How wild will it be? Who gets in? Who gets left out?
Trouble on the front stretch. Casey Kane hard into the outside wall. And Casey Kane got a piece of it as well.
Guys, we got right into it.
Casey Kane, he's run the fastest laps the last couple of times around. He'll get his first win of 2012. New leader in Richmond, it's Carl Edwards.
Doing good, but keep it up. They gave us a black flag there. They said you jumped the restart. Engine's blowing up, I think. That's very frustrating.
Kyle Busch smoked out from behind the M&M's Toyota.
Oh, it's blowing up, boys. Woohoo!
Problem for Kyle Busch.
We blew up again. We're going to be okay here. What up, boys? We back. Victory lane in Richmond, boys. Hail to the yeah.
Trouble, Jeff Gordon spins up the racetrack.
Yellow, yellow, yellow. Man, I'm way loose.
Jeff Gordon's got a problem.
Man, this is pathetic.
Jeff Gordon's dream has come true. It is raining like the end of time right now, and when they pull the plug, it's all over. Jeff Gordon is the winner.
There goes Newman off the bumper of someone.
Trouble in turn 2. Ryan Newman has expired the engine.
All clear. It's all you.
He's going to pull off the win at Martinsville.
Here comes Ambrose way wide. They are side by side. Move Ambrose to the top spot.
Come on, you got it. You got it.
Marcus Ambrose, for the 2nd year in a row, will win. Woo!
Man, I can't believe it.
The wily veteran and the youngster trying to pull one off. Beat that old man. Come on. Marcus loose. Joey Logano takes the lead off turn 1.
Come on, buddy. Bring it home to us. Come on.
Welcoming you back to Atlanta Motor Speedway and NASCAR Countdown. We're about 26 minutes away from the green flag. Wild card and the wild card chase is on. Casey Kane with 2 wins. He's got a pretty good grasp on wild card spot number 1. Carl Edwards without any wins, trying to make his way into the postseason. Then there's also Kyle Busch. He got a win earlier this year in Richmond. What would number 2 give for him? And of course, Jeff Gordon. Got the win at Pocono, the rain delay, but oh, how good is he at this track? The top 6 drivers in contention for that final wild card spot. There are a few that have done quite well at Atlanta. Carl Edwards got his first ever win here, and Jeff Gordon got his 85th career win here. This race 1 season ago, and we've been saying all along that each track we go to, the advantage has switched from driver to driver based on their performance. Last week we were saying it was Kyle Busch. This week, because of last year, I would think it would be Jeff Gordon. Do you agree?
I totally agree with you. I think Jeff Gordon's going to be fantastic tonight. Why? Because he's got to win. Mr. Hendrick was on earlier and said Jeff feels good about it. But look, the guy came here last year and dominated. He was second fastest in practice last night. He qualifies, 5th for the night. He's looking really good. I mean, I think Jeff Gordon's going to be the guy that's going to win this race tonight and get it done only because he's been fast and he's got to do it.
Not me. Jeff Gordon's done. He's done. They've not been able to get it done all season long. The sands run through the hourglass. Jeff Gordon's done. He's not making a change.
I really am going to get a little tape recorder and let you record that. So when I ask you the exact same question next week, you can just play. Let's go downstairs and talk to the other guy involved, or one of the other guys involved in this wild card battle. Carl Edwards is with Mike Massaro.
And Carl has to be feeling a sense of urgency. You know you only got 2 regular season races remaining, and I know you realize what you got to do. What's this like for you?
Thanks for reminding me. It's really pretty neat. You know, there aren't many things that get me as excited as racing, and right now to be under this pressure, our whole Vasinol team knowing that we've got to perform. You know, it's a true test, and hopefully we can do it. We've got 2 racetracks that are great. Atlanta could not be a better racetrack for us, and Richmond is great too. So it's fun to go to the racetrack, just lay it all on the line and go try to get a win.
Carl Edwards, as he said, pretty good racetrack for him. Place where he has 3 wins, Nicole.
Well, the other guy in this mix is obviously Kyle Busch. But first on Carl, one thing that stood out to me earlier this week, and he said, if I'm taken away from this earth, there's a place in heaven that looks like Atlanta Motor Speedway. So obviously he likes it here.
Oh, he likes it a lot. But see Jeff Gordon comment from Brad. Carl Edwards is done as well. He's not going to make a chase. Another inconsistent season that doesn't lend itself to these last 2 pressure-packed races and putting both of those guys in victory lane. Carl Edwards, Jeff Gordon, you guys are done.
I am not writing Carl Edwards off. I mean, he's under the gun right now. He's got to get it done, just
Been
like
under the
Jeff
gun
Gordon.
all year.
Yeah, but, you know, this is where he won his first race. He is so good at this track, especially at running the top line here. Remember a long time ago when he was on the top of the racetrack coming off of turn 4?
What'd you say? Long time ago.
Yeah, but he still remembers. He still's got it.
When is the last time Carl Edwards won a race?
Don't worry about it.
Long time
Don't worry
ago.
about it.
Las
That's
Vegas.
old news. He might
Beginning
get
of
it
last
done tonight.
season. Hey, let's go downstairs and catch up with Vince Walsh, because he's got that guy, the winner of this race last year.
Jeff Gordon, and had an interesting conversation with your crew chief, Alan Gustafson, earlier today, and he's described his emotions as disappointed, angry, yet confident. So I'm curious as to how your mindset matches up with that.
Well, I tell you what, he's firing up this whole race team right now because of his attitude and you know, that determination that he has, and I mean, you can just see it in his eyes. You know, we're not out of this thing. We've got a great race car here with the DuPont Chevrolet tonight, and I mean, he is definitely angry, and I tell you what, he's got us scared. So we better go out there and do our jobs, and that's what a great leader does. And we've got a race team, a race car that's capable of way more than what we've put out there, and we know the pressure's on. We've got to go get a win or 2, and let's hope that begins here tonight.
He won here last year. Dave?
Kyle Busch is wild card number 2, 13th in points, 39 out of 10th, Kyle, with 1 win. What's on your mind as we get Atlanta started tonight?
Nothing but Atlanta. Just got to focus on what we've done all year long and just keep running hard and doing the best we can.
Double McCamry was really good yesterday, and got in the fence a little bit, scraped her, but guys did a good job getting it back together, at least getting us back out on the racetrack for a little bit more practice time. And car ran really fast, respectable lap time. So I'm pleased with that, and we'll just see what we can get out of tonight. We know that there's a couple fast guys out there that we're racing against for the wild card spot. So if we just have a solid night and they don't win, we're okay. But if they do win, then we'll have to just run hard in Richmond.
Kyle Busch starts third tonight. Nicole?
Okay, so we know what you guys think about the wild card race. Who do you think will actually win the race?
I think Jeff Gordon's going to win this race tonight. Like I said earlier, he's got a lot of pressure on him. He's up for it. Jeff Gordon.
Kyle Busch should be strong, but Jimmy Johnson wins tonight as he marches towards his 6th championship.
And when we come back, you know what we do? We go upstairs to get you closer to the green flag. It is Alan Bestwick, Andy Petrie, and Dale Jarrett live from Atlanta Motor Speedway in 52 seconds.
And now we come to a very difficult track with its own history of unpredictable finishes. And it should be a lot of fun finding out how it all turns out after 500 high-speed miles. The engines fire shortly. First, though, it's time to go trackside and join in on tonight's opening ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, at this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as the Air Force Junior ROTC Unit GA911 from Lovejoy High School presents our nation's colors. Please remain standing as Atlanta Motor Speedway Chaplain Bill Braden offers tonight's invocation.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we have so much to be thankful for tonight. Thank you for this great nation. Thank you, Lord, for everyone who's gathered here. Thank you for the privilege to race tonight. Thank you for the days of sunshine we've had. And thank you, Lord, for setting us free, both spiritually and physically. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome back to the stage Southern Gospel Vocal Quartet, Ernie Haas and Signature Sal.
So proudly
A long day of waiting is over for the drivers and teams. Now they get down to business and get ready to go racing here in Atlanta. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR, has been proudly supporting our troops for more than 100 years. Visit Goodyear.com to show your support and learn more. Many members of our military here at the race today, and it's a pleasure to shake some hands and sign some autographs for some of them earlier today. It's Labor Day weekend. 43 drivers about to go to work really, really hard around a very fast track. The race begins from Atlanta next.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Atlanta, presented by Pennzoil, pursuing the latest oil technology because we love cars just as much as you do. And in part by Sprint. Avoid a data dilemma with truly unlimited data. Go to sprint.com/speed.
A steamy Sunday in Atlanta, capped by a spectacular sunset, leading to what should be a very interesting evening of racing for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series on the fast mile-and-a-half Atlanta Motor Speedway. Just like baseball's pennant races, the fight for places in the chase for the Sprint Cup is coming down to the wire, and the pressure's on high for a number of drivers and teams tonight. Drivers like Kevin Harvick, shown there a moment ago, Carl Edwards getting buckled in, and Jeff Gordon. All have a lot on the line tonight and in next Saturday night's race in Richmond. Harvick is in the top 10 in points and currently with a place in the chase, but he's not comfortably in the top 10 and doesn't have that win yet this season to fall back on. For Edwards, Busch, and Gordon, win, you might get in. But again, only a couple of races left to try and get that done. And welcome to our telecast of tonight's race from Atlanta. Alan Bestwick with former Atlanta winning driver Dale Jarrett and Atlanta winning crew chief Andy Petrie. They've both been in the fight for these championships. They both won a championship and both know what that pressure is like. For those guys like Gordon and Busch and Edwards, how does the pressure affect them during the race?
Well, it's going to certainly be on their mind. Every move that they make in this 500-mile race here tonight on a fast and slick racetrack could affect if they're in the chase or not. And these drivers totally understand that. You know, this week was the first time that I heard drivers like Jeff Gordon, Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards talk about the pressures of trying to get into the chase. It'll be great and probably a lot easier if they can get in there battling for the championship. But first, they have to make it.
Yeah, and the tension is very, very high in the garage area. These teams feel it. I mean, if you make the chase, it can really make your season. If you miss it, it can be devastating to your team. So they know that. I think it's more pressure in there right now than it is for, like, running for the championship down toward the end. Just getting in is tremendous amount of pressure on these teams.
Sprint Cup racing lately has been about strategy. Crew chiefs making 2-tire and no-tire calls. You need 4 tires every chance you can here. Is there any strategy?
Well, there is strategy. It's not the same as what we've seen before on these other mile-and-a-halves, but you do have to. You have some strategy available to you on how long you will stay on those sets of tires and when you'll make those pit stops. Will you make a quick pit stop and only run 30 laps or so, or will you try to extend it to, say, 50, 55 laps?
Yeah, and the drivers need to know this because they have to be on that same strategy, how hard they drive these cars.
It'll be a fun night to find out how hard they will drive over the course of a long run. Let's get it started.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome President and CEO of Advocare International, Richard Wright, and Distributor Relations for Advocare International, Shelley Wright.
On behalf of over 200,000 Advocare distributors nationwide, drivers, spark your engines!
Go ahead and crank it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Crank it up.
When you're ready, go ahead and fire it. I don't see this first run data fuel mileage deal. 10-4.
It is time to begin the Advocare 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Quick reminder, race fans, check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy and watch coverage tonight live from Atlanta by following your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. One of the drivers you can follow tonight is our ESPN in-race reporter, Martin Truex Jr. It's already been a big weekend for Martin. A contract extension with Michael Waltrip Racing and their Atlanta-based sponsor. And now a chance to try and get back to victory lane and clinch a place in the chase while doing so. We talk to Martin on the pace laps next.
Throughout NASCAR, there have been guys who naturally hog the spotlight. Then there's the other guys They don't star in movies or date rock stars or even have all that much to say. They don't have time for all that. They're too busy racing. And hey, what do you know? The chase is full of them.
And as we wait for the cars to roll from the grid here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, when you think about a lot of the discussion surrounding the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, there are names who come up as favorites for the title. And there are guys flying under the radar like Martin Truex Jr., who, no, he's not knocking off a lot of wins, but each and every week he's somewhere up the front of the pack, and he's in contention for those wins. The victory's bound to come sometime soon. Tonight, he can clinch himself a place in the chase, and he's our ESPN in-race reporter, Dale.
Hey, Martin, Dale Jarrett, ESPN. You with us?
That's Dale.
Hey, Martin, we've been discussing, been a big week for you already. A new contract for you, Napa on board for a few more years with you, so a lot of good things happening for you. And our mailbag question goes that way, and this is via Twitter. Devin asked, you have a ride locked, or does knowing you have a ride locked up next year help you focus on the task ahead in the chase?
Yeah, for sure it does. We're so happy and so proud that Napa decided to come back with us. And, you know, we've done a good job with a race team in MWR, making our cars competitive and getting in position to get or make our first chase together. So it's great to get that out of the way. We can focus on racing now, and looking forward to hopefully locking that deal up tonight and having some fun when the chase starts.
Martin, I know you've had a fast race car most of the season. You were very fast Friday afternoon in practice. Qualifying didn't go as well as you wanted to, starting back in 28th now. Did you get your car where you wanted to yesterday in practice?
I think we made some good changes. I feel like we're in the ballpark. You know, found a good, happy spot to start the race. We obviously need some adjustability. There's no telling where this track's going to go. It's really, really slick, hard to get a hold of, and the tires are wearing out fast. So we'll keep an open mind here, see how the start plays out, and you know, Chad and the guys at pit's done an awesome job all year. Hopefully they'll tune this thing up for me, and we'll be at the front when the end, and see if we can go get us a win.
All right, Martin, thanks for talking with us. We know it's a long race. We'll try to check back with you later on. Now, Andy's going to talk to your crew chief, Chad Johnston.
Hey, Chad, it's Andy up in the booth. I want to congratulate you guys on such a good season so far. A very successful season. Looks like you're going to be in the chase, no problem. What other goals do you have for this team the rest of the way?
I mean, Andy, our goal was to make the chase, but when we get in that chase, we want to make some noise and let people know that we're there. So, you know, once we get locked into that chase, we're going to go after some wins and show people that we're a contender.
Yeah, Chad, today, and we're talking about tonight, will you play it kind of conservative to make sure you get locked into this chase, or are you going to kind of gamble a little bit and try to get that win you've been looking for this year?
We'll see what cards we're dealt. If we get an opportunity to get a win and lock ourselves in, obviously we're going to do that. We're starting back there at 28th, but we're going to work hard, get that Napa Shocks Toyota Camry up front, see if we can't get a win before we get out here tonight.
Okay, well, good luck. Thanks for talking to us, Chad.
Thank you. You guys have a good day.
Chad Johnson, Martin Truex Jr., our ESPN in-race reporters tonight. Truex gridded back 28th in the lineup. Our over-the-wall reporter is Kenyatta Houston, changing front tires for David Gilliland in the 38 car tonight.
Yes, sir.
He's going to change a lot of tires tonight during this race, too. Have a good night,
yeah.
Kenyatta.
Thank you.
Some great onboard views for you in high definition tonight from here in Atlanta. Danica Patrick has one of our cameras on board, the GoDaddy.com camera. Clint Boyer with a 5-hour Energy on board. There's Kyle Busch with our Goodyear camera. And Jeff Gordon has the Sprint on board.
Once it got strung out after a restart, the preferred line seemed to be the bottom. Harvick was hooking his left front on the yellow lineup.
That's Jeff Spotter, Eddie DeHaan, talking to him about some of what happened last night in the Nationwide Series race. Kevin Harvick has our Ream on board. Martin Truex Jr., the Toyota onboard camera. Dale Earnhardt Jr. with the Chevy on board. And Carl Edwards has our Ford EcoBoost camera.
How's that weather look right now, Brian?
Looks clear for the race.
10-4, thanks. Just keep an eye on it. You know, it was building, and the chance has gone up a little bit the last couple hours.
We will keep an eye on the skies as well, but for now we're dry and one lap away from the start here in Atlanta. Tires will be a story tonight. Here's Shannon Spake with more.
That's right, Alan. The drivers love racing here in Atlanta, and one of the reasons is because of the track surface. It's rough, it's gritty, It's like sandpaper. Some actually compare it to the old Darlington. However, it's very rough on tires, as you just said. This is a tire from Friday's practice. This is a right rear. Goodyear said this is what it will look like after about 55 laps here today. You can see the tread wear indicators are almost gone. There's some cording and some chunks that came out. You take a look at it next to a fresh tire. Tire management is key here tonight. Vince Welch?
There are many drivers in various degrees of chase desperation, and none can avoid a penalty or afford a penalty on pit lane. Last night in the Nationwide Series race, there were 9 pit road speeding violations. This is one of the most difficult tracks to transition onto pit road. Get a speeding penalty here tonight, it could cost you the race, and maybe even a spot in the chase. Dave Burns?
Win and almost in could be the pre-chase mantra for Kyle Busch here tonight. You see, a win won't clinch him in the chase outright, with Newman and Gordon being so close in the wild card picture. But disaster, well, that opens the door big time for the others. Kyle starts third tonight with his chance to make it in. Mike Massaro?
Earlier this week, Carl Edwards said he looked at the calendar and realized that in just 1 week, the regular season would be over. With that, Edwards said his heart rate, it went up. Edwards knows to make the chase, he will likely need to win at least one of the next 2 races. Atlanta, though, does offer an opportunity. He's won here 3 times, and Edwards says it's this type of racetrack right now is what they need, Alan.
Mike, thanks. NASCAR has added a pace lap. Checking for a report of debris, also letting some of the smoke from some of the pre-race fireworks clear off this front stretch. And now we'll get one to go one more time. Now, statistical oddities show up every now and then, right? Driver who won this race the last 2 years started in 5th position. Starting 5th tonight, Jeff Gordon.
Guess that's where he started last year then, huh?
It was.
Yeah.
Well, good omen for Jeff. So 325 laps to make up the 500-mile distance on this 1.54-mile track. And we look at the top 4 qualifiers: Tony Stewart, Greg Biffle, Kyle Busch, and Matt Kenseth, and ask you which you think of those first 4 will be the highest finisher tonight. Text FAST to 34763 or go to AT&TFastestDriver.com to play. You can have a chance to win 4 Gs by playing the AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge. Every week, you can have a chance to make your pick and see where you stack up against the rest. Tony Stewart, as the pole sitter, has chosen the outside lane for the start.
They got a water bottle over there they got to pick up on.
Imagine that already.
Yeah.
I guess he wasn't kidding, but it kind of sounded like he was.
Oh, boy.
In reference to last night's little controversy.
Yeah, this is different than what we saw. Every restart, the leader chose, I believe, except for Travis Pastrana chose the outside, but every other leader chose the inside last night. And but Tony Stewart also used the high line to win the pole the other day, and he credited his teammate Ryan Newman for helping him do that.
So much on the line. First and foremost, a win at a tough and difficult track that's fun but challenging. Places in the chase to be clinched, places in the chase to be earned for a number of drivers. How's it all going to unfold? Time to start finding out. Green flag coming up from Atlanta. Greg Biffle to lead lap 1, but Tony Stewart looks like he wants that top spot back.
Looks like that might not have been a good choice for Tony Stewart to take that outside lane. Greg Biffle got the advantage in turn 1.
Big run by Stewart off of turn 2 this time, though.
Looks like he took that lead on purpose, didn't he?
Tony Stewart's car has been good since he first went on the racetrack on Friday afternoon in practice.
Greg Biffle settles 2nd, Matt Kenseth 3rd, Jeff Gordon 4th, double wide for 5th, Kyle Busch 18, Denny Hamlin 11. And way up the top of the racetrack, Jimmy Johnson, the 5-time champ.
Yeah, and that's not as high as we're going to see these drivers and cars get tonight, especially down in turns 1 and 2. Before it's over, they'll be right against the wall.
Second place here, Biffle, Kenseth, and Gordon.
Jeff Gordon, another one of those drivers that showed up high on the charts every single time that these cars went for practice or obviously in qualifying. Felt like his chances were really good here tonight to get that second victory that he so desperately needs.
Yeah, this track is a lot like we keep saying old Darlington, but that track was completely worn out. Jeff was so good there. And you can see just how he's sawing that wheel, working that car. He's able to make that work.
This is what makes this such a tough 500 miles. Very physical racetrack. You have 24 degrees of banking in the corner. It really slams you down. A lot of bumps in the corners. And no grip. You really have to work hard as a driver. You're pretty exhausted when this thing's over.
Already pedaling the gas pedal a little bit. Just 5 laps into the race.
Yeah, those seams we'll talk more about, as you can see, as you cross those, especially on the exit of the corner. You have to be extremely careful. Make sure you're going straight, and that can sometimes make you get out of the throttle if you have to cross over that.
Losing a couple spots, Joey Logano in the 20, losing 1 to Eric Almirola, able to hold off Sam Hornish in that 22. Logano's been a bit under the weather leading into the weekend.
Yeah, didn't practice either practice session yesterday in this car because he was under the weather. Had Michael McDowell in the car making some laps for them.
For second place, here comes Jeff Gordon, 24.
Boy, his car looked really good right there on the bottom. Kind of like what we saw Harvick's car look like last night. He kind of dominated the nationwide race till the very end when he got beat by Ricky Stenhouse.
And again, side by side for a spot. Hamlin 11, Kyle Busch 18. I thought Denny Hamlin's car looked really good in practice here last night too.
Yeah, he was one of the cars and drivers that a lot of the other drivers talked to me about. You can see right there, gets really loose though when his teammate Kyle Busch ran up on his back bumper.
Jimmy Johnson joining the fight.
Once you have to crack the throttle a little bit, especially off of these corners, it just costs you so much momentum, and this is a momentum track. It's really good to see. It's fun racing to watch. And as a driver, I always enjoyed this where you can make a difference in somebody's race car in front of you because you're losing so much grip with the tires. You don't have that. So you could run up there, never touch anybody, but get him out of shape. Then you drive by them. That only made them half mad.
Half mad?
I was going to ask you, what's the etiquette on that?
Yeah. So Jeff Gordon to second, trying to chase down Tony Stewart for the lead. While that race for 5th position a minute ago maybe made Denny half mad. Gotta go.
Gotta go.
Outside 11.
Just underway at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Our telecast tonight presented by Pennzoil. There is a new leader of this race. The defending winner, Jeff Gordon, just went by Tony Stewart a couple of laps ago.
And all clear, all clear. Nice work, bud. That's the way to make a statement.
A statement.
I don't know if he needs to make a statement. He's made quite a few, about, 85 times in this series. But he does need a win very bad, and he's running good, but his mirror's getting filled up with Kyle Busch coming fast now.
Yep, Kyle just got by Tony Stewart also and is closing quickly for the race lead. This is a car that this crew had to basically rebuild, Dave, after a practice incident yesterday.
The biggest problem, Alan, was the rear end housing. After you smack the wall like that, you move things around, you can crack them, and to be able to still have this car have decent drive and reliability for 500 miles, that was one area they definitely focused on.
Kyle's focused on going to the front.
2 drivers needing a win here tonight. It'd be huge for either one of them, with both of them having one victory, trying to make it in on the wild card.
I walked by this 18 car in the garage area this afternoon, and Dave Rogers was standing by the right side watching. His crew members were buffing and fluffing and just honing that bodywork as best they could after Kyle got into the wall during the final practice. They got the car back out and got some more practice in, but then did the work to make it as good as it possibly could be before the start of tonight's race. It hasn't worked out bad for him so far, I'd say.
So they did a pretty nice job of repairing that thing.
On board Kevin Harvick. That's a team that had a lot of high hopes for tonight's race.
Yeah, I talked to Gil Martin in the garage area just earlier today. They were so dominant in that nationwide race last night, Kevin was, and I was talking to Gil about it. He said they learned some things from that Cup car that helped them last night.
While we watch Denny Hamlin take second place from Jeff Gordon. So Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas running 1 and 2.
Talking to Denny some earlier this week. Kind of coach function we were both at and doing things, and really just talking to Denny about the confidence level coming up, the commitment that he's really made to be a part of this chase, and not just be a part of it, but to get that first championship. And he's really, really excited about the opportunity that he sees in front of him here this year.
Last week's winner at Bristol, last weekend's winner, Denny Hamlin.
Jeff Gordon has slipped back now a couple spots. He looked great right there off the break. He took the lead away from Tony Stewart, but now he's lost a few spots, Vince.
That's right, Andy, and in fact, Jeff says it's just gotten a little bit too loose, especially through 1 and 2. It jumps around on him as he gets back on the throttle. Says it's okay as he rolls it in, but when he goes to get on the throttle, the back end wants to jump on him. That's why he started to fall back a little.
And that's what you were talking about, the strategies that the different teams might be on as far as how far they're going to run. And as a driver, you can go out there and run hard for 10 laps, and it might feel great, but you're going to really pay the price these next 30, possibly 40 laps that you have to stay out there.
Yeah, we saw Gordon really sawing the wheel early in the race, trying to get that lead, and it worked at the time, but did he pay too big of a price?
Looking a little further back in the field, Clint Boyer in the 15 car qualified not as well as he would have liked, and then things got worse. Qualified 30th and then had to start last because they had to change the engine in this 15 car before the race. And so that kicked Clint, by NASCAR rule, to the back of the field for the green flag. However, things have taken a swing for the better as we take an inside look and get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app and truly unlimited data on the Sprint Cup network. Boyer has been the biggest mover in the race so far. Has picked up the 21st spot and racing for 20th there with Ryan Newman. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with live in-car audio, real-time stats on the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile Android app, only from Sprint. Get the app and learn more about Sprint's truly unlimited data plan at sprint.com/speed. Racing for 20th place after starting in the back, Dave.
The team keeps encouraging him with the X number of best lap, this lap, or, 6 best this lap, or something like that, just to keep him motivated as he drives forward. Tucker's crew chief Brian Patty about that motor change. He said, yeah, we had some human error following practice, and we realized that we'd done something. We needed to change that motor and even take our lumps and go to the back of the pack. But so far, he's been really good.
Well, he's halfway through the field.
Yeah, he's doing a nice job. And because they didn't qualify all that well, I think they were 30th. So it wasn't probably a difficult decision to make that change.
Didn't have to give up a lot to do that. And I tell you what, though, we're going to see a lot more Clint Boyer. I've been watching his lap times, just like we heard his crew chief say. He's been pumping him up with those times. It has been. I've seen a few times he's been about the 3rd quickest car on the track.
The quickest car on the track is driven by Kyle Busch out in front of the race, with his teammate Denny Hamlin trying to close in from 2nd spot. And we are just in the early moments of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Advocare 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway tonight. Huge. The clock's ticking, time's running out on those who need to find a way into the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Tonight's race in Atlanta and next Saturday night's race in Richmond. All that's left for Kyle Busch, Jeff Gordon, Carl Edwards, and more on the outside looking in to find a way into the championship group. And just past sunset here in Atlanta, our NASCAR Sprint Cup Series coverage tonight presented by Pennzoil. Kyle Busch, the fourth different driver to lead tonight's event. You can check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy and watch our coverage from Atlanta by following your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. Top 2, Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, have put quite a gap on third place Jeff Gordon. And even the guys that are up front and pulling away have got their hands full on this very tricky racetrack as we're now 30 laps into a run.
Yeah, and this just doesn't go away. This is just such a fast racetrack. The banking, 24 degrees of banking in the corners, makes it a difference. You can watch Kyle Busch here. We ride along with him. Have to work the steering wheel. I mean, that's a big turn to the right when you're in the middle of the corner. You can see, even as he gets on the straightaway, he has his hands full driving this race car, and he's the leader of the race. Imagine what the rest of them are doing.
And by the way, that was at 146 miles an hour when he made that hard turn to the right to try and keep control of his car.
I was watching that telemetry. He wasn't able to get all the way wide open on the throttle till he was completely straight.
So Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, 1 and 2. They've pulled away from third place Jeff Gordon by nearly 5 seconds. Moving forward and really on the move late in this long green flag run, Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick's got the best car right now after they've run 30 laps. He's, for about the last 5-6 laps in a row, he's had the fastest car on the track. That's a good sign for if we have a long run and these guys stay out there a while. He's, like I said, he's about 10 seconds back, but his car's really strong right now.
Boy, in the races, Sprint Cup races we've covered so far here at ESPN, we haven't said much about Harvick and how fast he's been, the speed he's had. This is nice to see this team making a rebound as it gets time for the chase. You talked about them being in a situation of having no wins and sitting there in ninth in the points, but this would sure be a big shot in the arm for this group.
Had an eye full of Jimmy Johnson sideways in front of him coming off turn 2 a second ago. So Harvick moving forward late in this long green flag run, moving backwards. Casey Kane in the 5 car, Vince.
Yeah, it certainly has been a struggle for Kane, not just this weekend, but certainly during this race. You see, there's the battle for the lead. Denny Hamlin in the 11 going by his teammate Kyle Busch. Hamlin taking the lead here at Atlanta. Back to Casey Kane. Been a struggle for them this weekend, and they have dropped 16 spots here at the outset of the race, now running 27.
Kenny, I think it's the left front shock. Your thought on it? You mean we need to do something with the factor in it? No, I'm saying that's why I'm so loose. The softness.
They built a lot of adjustability into this car. Sounds like they're going to need it.
All right, Vince. So Kane really sliding around here as we come up on what we think will be the first round of green flag pit stops very quickly here.
Yeah, I think in the next few laps we'll see some of the cars, some of the leaders actually hit pit road. We've seen a lot of cars out of shape. Jimmy Johnson's been sideways. The 55's been sideways a few times here. We watched Mark Martin trying to work the bottom. But there'll be some guys really wanting tires right now. They're about 3 seconds plus slower per lap than they were on their fastest laps to start the race.
Greg Biffle, remember, started in that 16 car on the front row, has slipped all the way back to 8th place with Mark Martin getting by him for the number 7 spot. Tony Stewart started first, and he's just lost a spot to Martin Truex Jr. That puts Tony back in 15th place, Mike.
And Tony was a little bit concerned before the race, Alan, talking to him because he didn't know exactly what to expect based upon what transpired in practice. Didn't get a chance to make a lot of long runs. So there were a lot of unknowns coming into this race. Right now, the problem he's dealing with, no side bite in the corners when he puts wheel into it.
So Tony...
Get murdered getting into the center.
Yeah, I was going to say he's talking about no side bite into the corners, especially. You can't attack the racetrack then, and you have to leave yourself so much room, especially if you're running the top side of the racetrack, away from the wall and be able to carry the speed that then is going to be better for you.
Trouble for Eric Almirola.
See 4,000 when you get here. 4,000 at the cone.
Saw that great piece on Richard Petty earlier in NASCAR Countdown. Caution is going to come out. Concern for fluid from this 43 car. And instead of a run on green flag pit stops...
Whatever it is must be covering the right front because it will not turn.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, he's got some kind of either oil leak or something wrong with the engine. It's leaking oil on that right front tire.
Yeah, and he was still on the racetrack through 3 and 4, and that's where a lot of the drivers are running, is that bottom groove. So NASCAR had no choice but to get this thing cleaned up on the racetrack before we had somebody spin.
And when they take that front tire off that 43 car, they'll be able to look at it and see if there's in fact fluid on it.
That could be an oil line, it could be an oil cooler, it could be any number of things. Let's see if they can run it down. I'm sure he's checked all the vital signs on the engine as far as the gauges go. Looked like it was running fine, but it just was smoking, and like you said, he couldn't steer it because it was sliding right front.
I don't know about you, but riding around that infield from the garage out to the broadcast booth earlier today, those folks were having a good time this Labor Day weekend. Time to go to work for the pit crews. Just past 50 miles in this event, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Jeff Gordon, Marcos Ambrose, and Kevin Harvick, the top 5, late in that long green flag run. Here they come, Vince.
Jeff Gordon going to be the first to hit the box down in this section. He says it's just real loose on the exit and he lost his drive off. Going to be a 4-tire change. Also going to make a wedge adjustment, track bar adjustment, and air pressure in the right rear as well. Shannon?
Marcos Ambrose, lower left-hand side, little snug, but he said no changes, 4 tires, made his way into the top 5. Dave.
Leader Kyle Busch needs Sunoco fuel. He'll take 4 tires, slight air pressure adjustment because he needs more front turn, more rear lateral grip. As for the 11 of Denny Hamlin, no changes, running second. He takes 4 tires and Sunoco fuel. Alan?
Lead change on the pit lane. And troubles for Marcos Ambrose with his stop.
Oh, lost 6 spots.
Long stop for Casey Kane. Vince reported on his struggles just before the yellow flag. And first round of pit stops for the night.
Yeah, if these drivers had their way, that happened about every 15 laps. They could get some new ones, but it won't be quite that often.
Scott Speed got the free pass at the yellow flag. Just taking wave arounds to get a lap back were Scott Riggs and Jason Leffler. And we are set to go racing with Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin side by side on the front row for the green.
Stewart 3 wide around the top. You can see Marcos Ambrose a little bit loose there in the middle coming off the corner. Everybody made it. Smoke's not finished making up time up there.
Check that out. Mark Martin sliding up in front of him. Kyle Busch to the lead. Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin race for second. Kevin Harvick is 4th behind them.
I'll tell you what, that first run, Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer really caught my attention for having good cars on a long run. That was very impressive what both of them did.
You know, you talked about earlier running hard on tires and maybe using up a little too much and then having to pay the price for that later on. You just saw Tony Stewart.
That's a good example, but yeah, you can do a lot of that up top a little bit more. If you try to run that bottom where you have to put a little bit more input into the wheel, you're scrubbing off some speed, you're sliding a little bit more to maintain there. That's a little harder on the tires, but you have to be careful on the top side too, because you can just wear them out quicker than what you want to.
Kurt Busch 51, Jeff Burton 31, Juan Pablo Montoya 42. That's a little close quarters. It's back for 17th, 18th, and 19th.
You can see just in front of that up there, Tony Stewart already starting to lose some spots that he made up on that restart. But yeah, Smoke probably knows that right now his car is not the best on the long run. He had to get what he could on that restart.
Yeah, Tony's car seems to go away real quickly, too. It's not like it's 10 or 12, 15 laps into the run. It goes away after about 3 or 4 laps.
Big bobble there for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Looked like his car bottomed out.
And we're going to see these drivers trying to get that left front down there on that yellow line, if not a little bit below it at times. But you get down there a little too far, and you can hit the splitter, and that really upsets.
Jeff Gordon by Greg Biffle for 5th. Remember in the opening run of the race, Gordon very fast for a while, and then it gave up, and he slipped back. Also in that opening run, we really saw Greg Biffle kind of struggle in that 16 car, Shannon.
That's right, Alan. He started second on the front row and immediately radioed in and said, I need more turn. On that pit stop, they did make the wedge adjustment. But remember, this race is all about wins for Greg Biffle. He's already in the chase. They want those bonus points. In fact, this car was kind of a throwaway car. His crew chief said, we don't need it moving forward for the chase. Go out there and just win.
That's the luxury they have by being in the chase.
These throwaway cars, though, you go and win with it, then what do?
Yeah.
You can't throw it away then.
Yeah. Stewart sliding back. Dale Jr. 88 moving forward, taking a spot from Tony. That'd be 16th place. Jr. started way back in 35th.
Everything I've gained in 2 laps, I've already lost it.
That thing will fly for 2 laps.
There's only one problem.
Yeah. They're going to have to do something. They're going to have to make some kind of adjustment. And the part that's really discouraging is when you have a car that has this kind of characteristic, it's pretty hard to adjust it back out of it.
So Stewart back to 17th spot, Mike.
Yeah, and as Andy was talking about what they need to do to this race car, I'll tell you what, they did a lot on that last stop. They lowered the track bar, added some wedge, made an air pressure adjustment, obviously 4 tires and fuel, and you've heard how it's responded. Right now, they're obviously not getting out of that car what they had hoped.
So we'll keep an eye on the next set of pit stops for this 14 and see if they throw the book at it again.
Yeah, we talk about how fast and slick this place is. It'll just magnify your problems, too, to the point that you just can't hardly go.
Mile-and-a-half tracks make up 5 of the 10 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Remember how hot Tony was at the end of last season? Won the first mile-and-a-half track race to start this year at Las Vegas. There's your race leader, Kyle Busch, out in front of tonight's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series event at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Not quite 100 miles of the 500 complete, just 1 caution so far in the race and 1 round of pit stops for all these drivers. Second place has changed hands. Jimmy Johnson on the move.
Yeah, I really expected Jimmy Johnson to be the person to beat here tonight with what we've seen aero-wise with their race car, horsepower that they have, what we saw at Michigan until he blew up right in the last 5 laps. Really figured with all of that combination and, of course, the way Jimmy Johnson drives a race car, and they may be right there tonight. They're running second already.
And he's had his share of success at this racetrack, certainly also. Remember in that opening run, Jimmy's car moved up. Then toward the end of the 35 laps or so on the set of tires, really started sliding around, though.
There he goes. Let's see it up there.
Denny Hamlin did a nice job there, taking that second spot back away. He got a big run off of turn 2, got close down the back straightaway, and was able to get to the inside before they got to turn 3.
And there goes Kevin Harvick. So Johnson goes from 3rd to 4th.
If you get in a situation like that, Dale, when you're trying to conserve your tires, you got 2 guys behind you kind of chewing on your rear bumper, that you go, hey, if I just back off here and not push it, trying to stay in front of them, I might be able to extend the life of them.
Yeah, it just makes it difficult. And you do have to do that. Say, if I stay here, then I'm going to fall back even further.
So there are second, third, and fourth. Casey Kane, story we've been following, falling backwards in the opening run of the race. Vince, he's running 26 now.
Yeah, he's having all kind of problems, guys. You know, on that first pit stop, they unhooked the rear bar, made a track bar adjustment, air pressure, and right now he says it's not a whole lot better. He said he's so bound up in the right rear, it's just rolling over too much. They're talking about taking a spring rubber out on the next time, but Kenny Francis, the crew chief, and Keith Rod, the engineer, they got their hands full with this race car right now, as does, of course, Casey Kane.
Yeah, they do. They're second off the leader's pace right now, so they got a lot of work to do.
And we're not even 100 miles into the race. That's going to be a long night for those guys. Kyle Busch, second in the wild card standings coming into the night, with a chance on two fronts to make the chase. He's still close enough with 2 races to go that he could get into the top 10 on points. And also, if he can find a way to pick up another win or 2, certainly very possible with his record here in Atlanta and at Richmond next week, he can claim one of those 2 wild card spots and have a shot at the championship. There's the gap. First, second, third, fourth, and now 5th place, Jeff Gordon, who's 5.5 seconds behind the leader.
We're missing something here, guys. We're not making it any better on the exit, just tightening up the middle. 4-4, we're going something else. Stay with it.
Well, one of the things that can happen, you got a car that's loose off the corner on the throttle. You try to do some things, conventional things that would tighten it up, and what you do is you end up making it worse through the middle, and then you still don't have that grip off the corner. It actually can make it worse. So that was good information, and for Alan Gustafson, probably the best thing to do would be to go the other way, actually free the car through the middle, and it might even tighten up off the corner.
These race cars can be aggravating things to work on, huh?
They're temperamental sometimes, especially here.
Now, Clint Boyer has raced his way all the way up into 10th position. Are they happy or are they aggravated in that 15 pit, Dave?
Yeah, after starting 42nd, Alan, his drive forward could have hit a snag. It just depends. Right now, crew chief Brian Patty has been in conference with his team. Car chief guys who are going to go over the wall here. That's because Clint radioed in and said, I got lights flashing, I got low voltage. They told him to switch to the second battery, the B battery. And Andy, here's some info for you. He restarted with the B battery at 9 volts. He has since reported it came up to 12. Is that going to make it?
That's a good sign. If it came up any, that means that it is charging some. It may be intermittent, but it's that's a good sign that it actually came up.
Brad Kozlowski 2, Greg Biffle 16. That's 7th place that just changed hands.
Motor's not running very good. Something's wrong with it. When I push the throttle down on partial throttle. All right, 10-4.
So the update there from the driver of the 16.
I tell you, this racetrack will make you think you have so many problems in so many different areas because it's just so slick. Your times fall down so much. You go to hit the throttle and you just can't make it work all the time. So it just drives you crazy.
Yeah, what happens is you get the car that's, when it slows down so much, we're talking 6-7 miles an hour, they're off of their fastest times. That changes the RPM range the motor's in. It can change the sound of it, change the way it feels. And they're not saying there's not something wrong, but it can throw you a false sense of something being wrong under the hood.
Eric Almirola had gone to the garage after bringing out the caution earlier. He's just come back onto the racetrack. No troubles for Kyle Busch so far. He's led the most laps tonight in Atlanta. We take an inside look and get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app and truly unlimited data on the Sprint Network. 6 lead changes so far in the race, and the driver who has done most of the leading tonight is Kyle Busch, out in front for 52 of the 73 circuits that we have run so far. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with live in-car audio and real-time stats on the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile Android app only from Sprint. Get the app and learn more about Sprint's truly unlimited data plan at sprint.com/speed. There is the race for the lead. Kyle Busch 18, Denny Hamlin 11, first to second. As these last several laps have gone on, Hamlin closing in a little bit, but Kyle's been out in front for most of the race so far, Dave.
He's in the lead now, Alan. Got some conditions with his car that he's trying to relay to crew chief Dave Rogers. Dave and Kyle talking back and forth in code, but they're not quite on the same page. Listen.
How much rear adjustment did you give me? I took a half pound out of the right front, then made the same adjustment we did at Indy. I wish I remember what that was. From my text last night, was that the same thing? No, I worked in a different area.
Perhaps they'll speak clearly before the next pit stop and give Kyle everything he needs.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want to give a lot of that stuff away on the radio, but, you know, other times it's, hey, let's just talk about what we need and don't confuse ourselves.
In traffic, Hamlin closes in even more, putting David Gilliland the lap down. Actually putting David a second lap down. 38 car back in 32nd place.
Now, these cars have remained on the bottom of the racetrack, and I'd say I'm a little surprised, especially down in this part of the racetrack, down in turns 1 and 2. You see Kyle get down and actually scraping the splitter a little bit as he gets down there, but I thought they would be up high in 1 and 2 and on the bottom in 3 and 4. Even after watching Kevin Harvick last night, I thought the extra horsepower would force them up to the top side.
Now here are two of the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas running 1 and 2. A third of their cars is running back in 13th place. Joey Logano behind the wheel of that car. Mike's been feeling under the weather a lot this weekend.
Yeah, you might want to say he's been down a cylinder this weekend himself. Either food poisoning or a stomach virus he was dealing with all weekend. So much, in fact, Michael McDowell was the guy behind the wheel during practice on Saturday afternoon. He's on the pit box right now, standing by just in case he has to relieve Joey Logano. In fact, his seat is in that race car in case he has to make that adjustment. I spoke with the team this morning, though, and they feel like Joey Logano is strong enough to go deep into this race. So a replacement not imminent at the moment.
McDowell didn't qualify for the race in the car he was entered to drive, and talked to a couple of the guys on that 20 crew. They were very impressed with the feedback that Michael gave them in the practice sessions here yesterday.
Yeah, Michael McDowell's a good race driver. I don't know that he's gotten the opportunity in first-class equipment like what he was in there yesterday. You see Hamlin close in as Kyle had a little problem passing the lap car.
Remember the lead change between these two on the only set of pit stops in the race so far. We're coming up on what would be another round of pit stops, and these may happen under green very shortly. Kevin Harvick creeping in on these top two to make it a three-way race for the lead here in Atlanta in the early going. Back at Atlanta, green flag pit stops have begun. The leader, Kyle Busch, is on the pit road 42 laps after he last stopped, Dave.
Here's Kyle now, a 4-tire change. You see the wrench going in the rear window. There'll be a chassis adjustment this time. Apparently they had cleared up what it is that they want with their race car. He'll get a full can of Sunoco fuel, 2 of them in fact, and 4 fresh tires.
Marcus Ambrose on pit road. He says his car is tight, center, and the left front is sliding. You see that chassis adjustment, the wedge in the back window, 4-tire Sunoco fuel. Mike.
Carl Edwards has been tight throughout the course of the evening, although after the last pit stop they did make it better. Still, he thinks the splitter is hitting a little bit on that run. They'll make a chassis adjustment, also a 4-tire change, and Sunoco race fuel for Carl Edwards. Dave?
Denny Hamlin having a great night. Left side wedge adjustment for the race car. Just a little bit loose right now. 4 tires and fuel. Vince?
There you see Jeff Gordon. They're just finishing up his stop. It's a 4-tire change. Air pressure adjustment in the left rear for Gordon.
Tony Stewart radioed in not too long ago saying he's having trouble landing, entering the corner. They're going to try to make an adjustment. They took a very big swing at it last time. We'll pay close attention to see what they do this time. Team working on the right side, expecting a 4-tire change, also an air pressure adjustment and a chassis adjustment. You see the wrench going in now as they try to dial in that race car for Tony Stewart. It hasn't been as good as they expected when they started on the pole this evening.
As happens when these green flag pit stops happen here in Atlanta, everybody's in within a few laps. There have been a pile of pit road speeding penalties called out by NASCAR on their radio. I'll double check and confirm them and recap them for you in a moment. But this should cycle back around to Kyle Busch leading Denny Hamlin after the stops. There's Kyle. His lead over Denny, 1.2 seconds, with Kevin Harvick still in third after the round of green flag pit stops.
Harvick stayed out an extra lap and pitted after Kyle, and Denny pitted so he could lead a lap and get that bonus point.
So the pit road speeding penalties that I said were a pile of them was actually one. He was just speeding in a pile of zones on pit road. Juan Pablo Montoya, too fast in zones 3, 4, and 5 on the pit lane.
Well, if you're going to speed, you might as well get it through there as fast as you possibly can. It's no more of a penalty, so get it on. He just came down and made his pass through back on the racetrack now.
He was 21st before the penalty. So I don't see any major changes of running order as a result of those green flag pit stops besides the Montoya penalty.
Jimmy Johnson lost a lot of time on that green flag stop. Had some trouble on the left side.
Lost time, didn't lose position.
Yeah, didn't lose position, but did lose a lot of time.
Yep, he's fallen 12 seconds behind the leader. But other than that, mostly everyone held serve there. And Hamlin still stalking his teammate Kyle Busch for the lead. Casey Kane in that 5 car, now no longer on the lead lap.
This is the best we've seen Hamlin's car take off. Of course, it's a little different situation than just being on a restart, but having the fresh tires, because he came back out, it looked like Kyle had gained quite a bit on him, a little over a second from whenever they made their pit stops. Now he's taking the lead.
Maybe not for long. Whoa, 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 look out. Last thing you want to do in that situation is get the bumper into the back of your teammate accidentally.
Yeah, he didn't want to do that, but I thought that he might have remembered earlier in the race when Kyle ran up on his bumper and didn't touch him, but got him extremely loose.
He might remember that later.
That's right.
When it counts.
Put a marker in his book.
Yeah. Don't want to use that up right now.
Mentioned Jimmy Johnson lost time. He was 4 seconds behind the leaders before the pit stop. He's 12 seconds behind now. So he lost 8 seconds on that pit stop. And look who's just in front of the leaders. Tony Stewart started on pole position for this race. That's amazing. What a struggle it's been tonight.
Yeah, it really has, and I don't think that Tony expected this. Talking to everybody earlier, they seemed to think that the car was okay.
Whoa, 18 kind of had to check up there in the middle of the corner.
You can see as these drivers get closer to the car right in front of them, they lose the front end a lot of times, and Kyle's car went up the track, looked like he couldn't get it turned back down and just had to wait on the throttle then.
There are the bottom part of the top 10 and the wild card contenders.
You know, Stewart's the best thing going for him is that Casey Kane is struggling tonight also, so he's not getting any closer to taking over and losing that spot that he's got in the top 10 right now.
Yep. And with 3 wins this season, if Tony somehow gets bumped out of the top 10, he's going to be in the chase, but he loses
9 valuable points for those wins because there's 3 points each, and as Tony well knows, every point's extremely valuable, as ended up tied last year.
It's funny, Tony was asked about that, and he said, well, you know, we won it last year without having any bonus points to start with, but obviously your preference would be to have them if you got them. Denny Hamlin, one of the hottest drivers on mile-and-a-half tracks this NASCAR Sprint Cup Series season. He won on the half mile in Bristol, Tennessee last Saturday night. He's out front tonight here in Atlanta. Denny Hamlin leading in Atlanta. Race fans, check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy to watch coverage live from the track tonight. Follow your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. One of those cameras would show you Kevin Harvick creeping in on Kyle Busch for 2nd place as Kyle has fallen back from Denny Hamlin's bumper after giving up the lead to Denny.
Well, I'd have to say that this set of tires are an adjustment they made on this 18 car. Probably not making Kyle Busch very happy right now.
So the one in which they were talking about code, about which area of the car to work in from Indy, and
yeah, I think they're going to have to get back to just speaking English.
Carl Edwards, 99. Marcos Ambrose, 9. Couple of the drivers trying to fight for that wild card place in the chase. Right now they're fighting for 13th spot on the track. Gonna have to do better than that. So Edwards and Ambrose racing 26 seconds, nearly a lap now behind the race leader Denny Hamlin. After taking the top spot, Hamlin has pulled away from Kyle Busch by 2.7 seconds. There's Hamlin.
He just put Dale Earnhardt Jr. a lap down.
Yeah. So again, 2.7 seconds back to Kyle Busch. Kevin Harvick running third. Jimmy Johnson now 13 seconds behind, and yet running in fourth place as we go up to speed. Vince, how about this 48 car?
Yeah, the big issue for Jimmy Johnson in the 48 right now, a three-time winner here at Atlanta, is the fact that he just doesn't have the side bite that he needs. They made a right rear shock adjustment on that last pit stop, but Jimmy still says he's got the same issue. The 24 of Jeff Gordon darted to the front early in the race and led some laps, but since then, Gordon has been struggling a bit with the handling. That last pit stop, he said, it started tight and then it just went way loose. They made a wedge and track bar adjustment to try to help him out. Shannon?
Well, Martin Truex Jr.'s biggest obstacle for the first 100 laps was track position. He started 28th because they had a right rear shock issue in qualifying, but they knew that the car was good, and you could see that right now as he has worked his way to 6th. The car feels great underneath that 56 for Martin Truex Jr. Dave.
Shannon, after the first pit stop, Brad Keselowski rated, and the changes were awesome. The car is really underneath him. Now, the last time he checked, they didn't change anything. And right now he says, I'm lacking stability. Not happy with that race car. Clint Boyer, somewhat happier. He radioed in before the pit stop that I'm getting 12.5 volts for that battery right now. That's a good sign. On that last pit stop, another good sign. No changes. He's running and balanced very well. Mike?
Dave, over the last week or so, there's been a lot of conversation about who might be driving this 22 in the future. Unfortunately for Sam Hornish, his name has not figured prominently in those discussions. He's trying to showcase his talent tonight. He's been running up in the top 10 most of the evening, just a little bit free. They made an air pressure adjustment on the last stop, trying to tighten him up, Shannon.
Well, Greg Biffle, your points leader coming into this race, you heard him say a little bit earlier in the race that the motor sounded funny and felt funny. His crew chief asked if it was still doing that. He said, no, it's just not very good. And the car isn't very good either. He is struggling with handling. It's loose, and he's really struggling with right rear grip. Now, as far as Mark Martin, lots of trouble in practice. They were still able to qualify 6th for this race. Rodney Childers told me this is the best car he's had at Atlanta. His driver's pretty good, too. At this track, he has 51 starts here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Guys?
All right, Shannon. Also on the lead lap, Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards, Marcos Ambrose, Jeff Burton, Paul Menard, Joey Logano, and Ryan Newman. And that's it. A fast pace set by the leaders. Most of the guys running out in front have been driving Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas. Kyle Busch led the most laps. He's now second. And Denny Hamlin is up at the point now. It has been a huge weekend of college football here in Atlanta, and that continues on Monday with an ACC matchup. Team in Washington looking to navigate Georgia Tech against the top-ranked Virginia Tech defense. After a stellar debut season, junior Logan Thomas has the 16th-ranked Hokies aiming for another run at the ACC Coastal Division title. College football primetime presented by Russell Athletic tomorrow at 8 on ESPN, and also available live on Watch ESPN.
Andy's got a favorite in that game.
I hear he's cheering for Tech.
Yeah, goes out on the limb.
Well, just past 150 miles tonight of the Advocare 500 for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Denny Hamlin is out in front. He's opened up a 2.9 second lead on a new second place driver. Kevin Harvick has just passed Kyle Busch for the number 2 position. Joey Logano being put a lap down by the race leader, Mike.
Yeah, and as we reported not too long ago, his illness, well, the situation has not improved. In fact, it's gotten worse. His cool box is starting to fail, and obviously that's not good when you've got a stomach virus. Still, he says he's committed to this race and is staying in the seat.
Man, just makes it difficult, and a lot of these drivers stay in great physical condition. I'm sure Joey does too, but when you get down like that, once you start breaking down physically, getting a little bit tired, things aren't working, boy, then you start losing your focus mentally, and you have to have all 100% focus here to go around this racetrack fast.
And then on top of that, you got Murphy working on the car. Cool box goes out.
Yeah. So Logano goes a lap down in 16th place. Check the gap. Denny Hamlin back to the new second-place runner. Continues to be an impressive night for Kevin Harvick in this 29 car. And that's not a phrase we've attached to this 29 car for a good chunk of this season. Impressive.
I'm not surprised, though, because he ran so good last night. Like I said, I talked to Gil Martin, and he said that they had learned some things with the Cup car in practice. They applied to the Nationwide car, and then he was just dominant. I mean, all night long, just absolutely. He pulled out to like 13-second lead at one time. So I was kind of looking for this kind of performance out of this team tonight.
Warm and steamy night here in Hampton, Georgia at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where the second to last race before the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup unfolds on the fast mile-and-a-half Atlanta Motor Speedway track, a track that eats up tires, makes the cars slip and slide all over the place, and is a full night's work for the drivers behind the wheel at top speed. Kyle Busch has led the most laps tonight. Denny Hamlin is out in front now. We've had just one caution for fluid from Aric Almirola's car, and we're coming up on what should be another round of green flag pit stops shortly. Speaking of slipping and sliding, there's a good illustration of that from Kevin Harvick, Vince.
Yeah, that's right. Harvick has been fighting it a little bit here, especially in this loose run. He says it's loose in and tight off. So that's what he's been dealing with, although it's been loose off a couple of times. At least that's the way it's looked. One of the things they've done, though, is they've gone back toward last year's setups with the return of Gil Martin as crew chief. They said that's going to be their starting baseline, and they've been working from there. They think by the time they get to Chicago, they're going to be in a lot better shape than they are now, but they feel like they're gaining on it.
So Harvick with his hands full there, despite the fact that he's running second. Another round of green flag pit stops begins. Shannon?
Guys, Greg Biffle not happy with his race car. He says it's sliding the front, it's sliding the rear. They're going to get aggressive. They're going to put a spring rubber in the right rear. They're also going to make an air pressure adjustment on the car. 4 tires, obviously, for the 16 team Sunoco fuel as well. Guys?
About the little LED lights in the visor of the helmet so the tire changers can see what they're doing for a night race.
Yeah, that was one of the most challenging things of these night races. You can't see up in those black wheels, and so you get brake dust on all the lug nuts. It's really hard to see the lug nut.
Marcos Ambrose, Jeff Burton, Joey Logano, Jamie McMurray in. Shannon?
Marcos Ambrose is going to come down. He's going to take 4 tires, and they're going to make a track bar adjustment. He says the car is getting better, but it's still loose. Mike?
Jeff Burton complaining that the car's been tight most of the evening. They're going to try to make some adjustments to free him up ever so slightly. He's on pit road looking for a 4-tire change. Dave? My jerk can is frozen.
Tony Stewart started on pole, now running a lap down after really struggling with this car and struggling on this pit stop. I shouldn't say struggling, adjusting under the right rear of that car on this pit stop. Mike?
Yeah, and Tony Stewart has been complaining they've been really getting beat going into the corner. That's been their biggest problem. They'll try to help him out here on this stop.
Casey Kane has struggled. Green flag pit stop for him. Ryan Newman, one of the guys hoping to stay in contact for that spot in the chase. Dave, he's had a tough night so far.
And confused right now about his race car. He radioed in, do what you need to do. I can't tell you. So they're going to put 4 fresh Goodyears on it for sure. Fill him full of Sunoco fuel. But we'll see what happens with him. Tony Gibson not really sure what his driver needs, Alan.
All right, Denny Hamlin continues to stay on track. More green flag pit stops. There's Dale Jr.
Yeah, he hasn't been very happy with his race car the entire weekend that they've been here.
And Brad Keselowski's in.
From 7th position, he got a wedge adjustment and 4 fresh tires. He said they told him to start running the bottom or the other guys were running very quickly. Kyle Busch is on pit road as well. His car, he said, I'm going too hard early and I have no rear lateral grip. Kyle Busch on an off pit road.
The 48 of Jimmy Johnson. They went 1 round down in the left rear, 2 round down track bar, still lacking side bite. There's the 29 of Kevin Harvick. Harvick says he's loose off and tight in. Typically likes to drive a car that's a little bit tight, but it's been too tight to work with the way he wants. It's an air pressure adjustment, 4 fresh Goodyear tires, and fuel, Sunoco fuel for Kevin Harvick.
Beginning to wonder how long Denny Hamlin was going to stay out there, giving up time to these other guys that already have fresh tires. We'll see how this all cycles out when Hamlin comes back up onto the racetrack after this pit stop. There he is, Dave.
And he, of course, will get fresh tires. He was trying to take care of them, run his laps out there, and obviously they stretched their fuel very well. He said you can keep going the same direction. Don't be afraid to keep going that way, which was make me just a little bit tighter, especially on the bottom of the track. The 11 car was just a little bit loose, but obviously very fast. Right now, Denny Hamlin has been in control here at Atlanta.
All right, so as Hamlin heads back out onto the racetrack, keep an eye out for Kyle Busch and for Kevin Harvick, who pitted earlier than Hamlin, even though they were behind him on the racetrack. They've had a couple of laps on fresher tires. There's Kyle. Harvick's just ahead of him on the racetrack, and we'll watch as Hamlin comes up to speed off turn 2 and see how they fold in.
Denny had a little bit of a luxury there staying out because he'd built up a pretty good lead. Even though there's about 2.5 to 3 seconds difference when you put these fresh tires on, I think he's going to have the lead still.
Man, they did great. He lost about a second of his lead on the exchange of the green flag pit stops. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series presented by Pennzoil. Just the second caution has waved here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. As some debris reported, I believe I heard on the back straightaway, has brought the pace car out and will put us under the yellow flag for just the second time. That'd be a welcome break for a lot of these drivers.
Oh, a lot of them wanting to make some big adjustments. I'll tell you some drivers that really benefited from Denny Hamlin staying out there. Ryan Newman, Joey Logano, Marcus Ambrose, they were able to get back on the lead lap after they had been lapped. They pitted about 3 laps or 4 laps before Denny Hamlin did, and that was just enough time for them to stay out there and be able to take advantage and be on the lead lap.
So even though all the leaders were just on pit road,
they'll be back.
Come back in again. Put on 4 new shoes.
Yeah, this is a race that gets expensive for the owners. They know that they just have to bite the bullet because you're going to be in here every time you can possibly put tires on it.
And some people that need to do some adjustments on their car with maybe a chance to work on it a little more extensively under the yellow than they might on a green flag stop. Vince?
The 29 and the 48 both coming. You see the 48 of Jimmy Johnson up top. Jimmy says the entry is much more protected and more comfortable, so they're going the right direction on it. As far as the 29 of Harvick is concerned, he says it's just a little snug. They're not going to make any changes, Dave.
Neither are they for Kyle Busch. He said, give me some magic to make the front rotate and the rear bite, but they're not going to do that. 4 fresh tires. Leader Denny Hamlin, they wanted him to stay out perhaps, but Denny said, no, I'd like to come in for 4 tires. They did put some tape on the front of the car. Denny running a little cool right now.
Five-hour energy rapid recap. We'll get us caught up on what's happened so far in Atlanta. Tony Stewart started on pole, but has struggled, currently 24th, and just back on the lead lap.
Oh, yeah, that car is not handling good at all. I mean, he really fell through the field big time. Really unexpected for Tony.
Kyle Busch has been very good tonight, not out of the top 10 at all.
Kyle Busch has been stout, led 66 laps. He looks like the car to beat thus far.
Jeff Gordon looking for another win to clinch a spot in the wild card.
I tell you what, he's looking pretty strong. He's been up in the top 5, top 10 all day long. The car hasn't lost much speed at all.
There's Carl Edwards in the 99, running in the top 10 right now, but really not been a factor thus far.
He's been pretty consistent, but not really moving forward, but we got a long way to go.
Heading into the race, we were talking about Denny Hamlin. Yes, he won the race last weekend. He is currently listed as the leader of 133 laps complete in Atlanta. Are we perhaps overlooking him a bit too much?
Well, I think I overlooked him. I mean, Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch, Joe Gibbs racing. They've been strong. They're leading this race right now. Running 1-2.
Big jam up on the restart. Looked like Kyle Busch had a lot of trouble getting going in the 18.
Well, he's spinning his tires. He had Jimmy Johnson pushing him, trying to help him get going, but that was only making matters worse.
Look at this behind him. There are a lot more cars on the lead lap than there were at the caution. An explanation after we let some of this settle out.
Kevin Harvick jumped out there on this restart. He's been coming all night.
Mark Truex is still marching his way to the front. He's third.
And you see Kyle now settling in fifth after the restart slip and slide and trying to dig his way back toward the front. Paul Menard got the free pass at the caution, and then with the yellow coming out just after a series of green flag pit stops, a number of drivers who had been lapped by the leader stayed on the racetrack, took a wave around the pace car, and got back on the lead lap. They include some of these cars you're looking at racing here. Regan Smith, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kurt Busch, Bobby Labonte, Trevor Baynes, Jamie McMurray, Tony Stewart, Landon Castle, all back on the lead lap via the wave around route. There's third place changing hands. Matt Kenseth, 17.
Talking about that jam up on the restart there. Big loser in all of that. Jeff Gordon restarted 7th. He's been running up in the top 5 all day. Fell all the way back to 14th right now.
I guess it's better than being wrecked right now.
Very true. We've seen Kyle start to struggle here. After they've made the previous green flag pit stop, their car just hasn't seemed to be quite as good.
So you talked about Jeff Gordon getting shuffled back on the restart and losing some ground after the traffic accordioned essentially in front of him. Now he's back racing with Greg Biffle for 14th and 15th place.
Yeah, and it's amazing how different your car, you'll find it drives as you get back in this traffic, trying to make up time. You're not getting as much clean air to your car. You really start complaining.
Yeah, and the other side of that is like Kevin Harvick. He's got the lead on that restart. Now he's the fastest car on the racetrack. He's out there leading, clean air, and we haven't seen his car be this strong all night.
About all year, to say the least, but certainly not tonight.
Greg Biffle, any happier? Well, watching those hands slide, I'm not sure he would be, Shannon.
Well, I guess that just answered your question there, Alan.
Yeah.
No. He actually is still struggling with the setup of this car. They got a little more aggressive on that last pit stop. They put a spring rubber in the left rear. They've already put a spring rubber in the right rear. He immediately came over the radio before the last pit stop and said, I am just in a four-wheel slide all over the racetrack, so not happy at all.
All right, so it continues to be a long night for the championship leader in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series coming in.
Well, they said they brought a throwaway car. I think Greg's probably thinking about now they should have thrown it away before they brought it.
So let's go back and have another look at that restart and how it all got jammed up. restart accordions are something we see a lot at this racetrack.
Well, yeah, we talked about how slick, and normally when we talk about a racetrack being slick and no grip, we're talking about mainly through the corners. See Jimmy Johnson sliding through the corners here. The straightaways aren't much better. I mean, there's just no grip to be had. And normally Kyle Busch is really good, probably the best on these type of tracks of getting his car up to speed, but just couldn't do it that time.
Any update on this 18, Dave?
Well, just maybe a little window into their philosophy. Had a conversation with 18 crew chief Dave Rogers this afternoon, and I asked him, did you pick up anything from the Nationwide Series race last night? He said, yeah, I watched that 33 dominate on the bottom and on the long runs. So I said, that affect your philosophy? He goes, yeah, took a little bit away from our short run, gave a little bit more to Kyle's long run. Now, obviously, he spun the tires on that restart, but keep an eye on that because Kyle's car may come to life later in these runs.
Yeah, I know Dale was talking about how he was surprised a lot of cars running the bottom of the track in 1 and 2. And I think that's what happened last night. Kevin Harvick dominated so much running the bottom that I think it changed the philosophy of a lot of teams.
Now Jeff Gordon trying to make up some of the ground lost.
Yeah, that's what's so bad, man. But his car has been pretty decent on the long runs, but you just hate to give up that much when you have your fresh tires. Just really discouraging for the driver. What's Jeff saying, Vince?
Well, the one thing that Jeff is talking a lot about is the fact how much better his car runs when he gets it out in clean air as compared to that traffic that he was in when you guys described that accordion at the restart and he was battling with Biffle. He said, we do not have the car to be in this kind of traffic. Once he gets out in the cleaner air, it handles much better. Of course, the speed then is better as well, but he is not happy when that car gets in traffic, and right now, well, that's where he's at. Currently 12th. He's going to see some traffic.
And I remain amazed as we watch these onboard shots.
Right front, guys, right front. Four tires.
Joey Logano with trouble. Mike?
And he's complaining about the right front, Alan. They're going to come down pit road and obviously change 4 tires here. Not taking any chances. He saw what happened with Denny Hamlin last night. They hit pit road early when they felt something wrong with that car. They'll go to work on the right side there. Joey's still fighting the ill effects of his stomach virus. He actually asked for something to eat, something he hasn't done in a couple of days, so maybe he's feeling a little bit better.
All right, so Logano, who had just gotten somewhat of a good break earlier, with a bad break here just laps later in this green flag run. 6th place changing hands here.
Impressive night for Sam Hornish Jr. Making a nice run. This is Sam's type of racetrack, I think. Fast. He kind of likes to run the car hung out, and you've got to be comfortable in that situation driving the car here. Actually up in front of his teammate there, Brad Keselowski.
Looks like Jimmy is struggling a little bit, though.
Yeah, the 2 Penske cars, 22 and 2, they've been close together in the running order all night. So, from your experiences here, driving in these long Atlanta races where you're slipping and sliding and wrestling the wheel, do you ever get to a point behind the wheel where you just say, okay, I've had enough, fix this thing, or you just know that that's just how this track is and you just got to ride it?
Yeah, I think you come in knowing that it's going to be a long 500 miles. I mean, we've seen the leader, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, whether it was Kyle Busch out front, their car's working extremely hard and the car's moving around a lot. You just know it's going to be like that. And you just hope that you don't make a change that really sends you one way, and especially on the loose side, because that makes it almost impossible. You have no choice but just to basically slow down and not wreck and hope you can fix it back.
Things just acting funky. We got a bad set of tires or something here. All right, baby, you just keep your hands on that wheel and bring her home safe inside.
Yeah, when Jimmy's struggling with the car, it's bad. I mean, he's got a handful right here. He's probably one of the best to hang on to a car that's not handling well, though.
But Jimmy Johnson running in 8th position, 7.6 seconds behind the leader, Kevin Harvick. Richard Childress Racing had led only 10 laps since Darlington Mother's Day weekend. Huge Labor Day weekend. Always a big one in the drag racing world. The Mac Tools U.S. Nationals from Indianapolis. Noon Eastern time tomorrow on ESPN2. And then we move on next weekend to a huge weekend in NASCAR. Richmond, the NASCAR Nationwide Series, presented by Bombardier, Friday at 7 Eastern on ESPN. And the Chase deciding race next Saturday night, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series from Richmond on ABC at 7 Eastern time next weekend. It's going to be a big night. Look forward to seeing how it all shakes out at Richmond. And of course, we'll share the conversation throughout tonight's race and next weekend's races with you as well at NASCAR ESPN. The hashtag is Pit Studio. Been asking you to tweet your seats about where you might be watching tonight's race from. Looks like Dega Dude was in the Turn 4 grandstands and Spurgeon Boy is in front of the TV. Starting them young. Gotta like that. You're probably watching races about that age, right?
Yeah, about that track.
Yep. Here's your leader, Kevin Harvick. Took over just after the most recent restart. After Harvick started this 29 car back in 24th on the grid, ran quickly up into the top 10, then into the top 3, now to the number 1 spot. And look out the results for Harvick through the 24 races of this season so far. Only 3 top 5 finishes and just 1 top 10 in the last 7 races. This is not a team that's been showing us the ability to get up here, lead laps, and win races, Vince, but they've got it figured out tonight.
They sure do, and I think the change to crew chief Gil Martin has been a positive move in the positive direction for them because they seem to have gone back to the basics from a setup perspective, and that's helped their race car. Right now, the car's pretty good. The problem they're having is that Gil is having a difficult time hearing Kevin, so Gil's actually changed out headsets a couple of times because they just don't have a clarity in the headset to have a clear understanding of the feedback that Kevin's given them. Car seems to be pretty good. Now, if they can just hear what Kevin's saying about it, maybe they'd really have an understanding.
I mean, you have to know that it has been a frustrating season for this team to not. I mean, they'd won 3 races by this time a year ago, and they only have 3 top 5 finishes this season.
This sounds like how we were talking about Tony Stewart this time last year.
Yep.
Maybe they're peaking at the right time.
Denny Hamlin, second place, losing a little bit of ground to Harvick over the last several laps. Climbing up into 3rd position on this last shuffle after that restart scramble and series of pit stops, Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, Martin done a nice job of taking this race car from starting 28, just being very persistent and patient throughout the night, taking what it would give him, working on his race car, got himself in a good spot here. Not only to make the chase, but to get himself in a position to get that first victory in this Michael Walker car. First victory since he's been at Michael Walker Racing.
Yep. And first victory in a long time for Martin. 2007, his last win. There's Kyle Busch, led the most laps tonight, 66 of the 163. Now running in 4th after the big slip on the restart a little while ago.
Keep doing what you're doing. Race the racetrack, but tell me what you need to go faster next run. You just flip the switch. This is all hell. 10-4.
Well, that's difficult to fix.
Yeah, you feel like they just flip a switch sometimes, but you know, I heard Kyle say earlier that he felt like maybe he was running the car too hard at the beginning of a run, and it really was just hurting him as they tried to get some more laps. Mike, 14's in.
Yeah, and Tony Stewart completely unhappy with his race car, comparing tonight to what he experienced in Texas earlier this year, which was a weekend where they started off good, but it all went bad very quickly. Car not good. They've even talked about maybe making a shock change. They haven't done it yet, but a 4-tire change in the 14 and an air pressure adjustment. But Tony very unhappy with the way he's getting into the corner.
Remember, Tony had taken a wave around to try and get back on the lead lap, and then lost the lap already before that green flag pit stop. Expecting to see these front runners in around lap 171 or so for their next stop. And let's go back and follow up more on that radio transmission we heard from Kyle Busch just a minute ago. Dave, you want to help us out there?
Well, Alan, because Kyle gave them just a little bit more, because a couple laps after that, he drove a different line and said, oh, wait, this stuff ain't easy. And then he found a better line. So just by moving around a little bit, the loose condition which he was explaining, he was able to correct. So it's not quite as bad as that first thought might have had. Mike?
Carl Edwards complaining about the same things everybody else is, really looking for grip. In fact, he said it's like driving on oil out there. It's that slick. Looking for 4 tires on the 99, a chassis adjustment, and Sunoco race fuel for Carl Edwards, trying to give him just a little bit more grip, something just about everybody in the field searching for tonight.
Marcus Ambrose is in.
Marcus Ambrose are going to continue working on the setup of this car. The handling is not where he wants it. You see the wrench in the back window. That's going to be a track bar adjustment. They're also going to put 4 tires and fuel for the 9 car. Guys?
All right, Shannon. Remember some of the guys that stayed out to take the waiver out at that last caution, needing to pit a little sooner than the front runner. Expecting Kevin Harvick in shortly after lap 171 or 172 from the race lead. There's Ryan Newman in.
Alan, he's gotten into the top 10, which is where he needs to be running to try to make it into the chase this year. Loose this time. He was able to give his crew some idea of what's going on. They will make a 4-tire change, helping with air pressure. Again, a top 10 run for Newman. Shannon?
Well, we've well documented the 16 struggles. The car is still not right for Greg Biffle. Says it's plowing. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment, a 4-tire change.
Mark Martin also leaving the pit lane. Paul Menard took the free pass at that last caution to get back on the lead lap. Now on pit road.
Paul Menard's just been handling some tight conditions for that 27 car. They're going to take 4 tires, as will everybody that comes down pit road here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, but just a little bit tight. Mike?
Jeff Burton's complaint is that he hasn't been able to run the bottom the way he would like. That's what they worked on throughout the course of practice yesterday, so they're a little bit surprised by that. A 4-tire change for Jeff Burton. Further down pit road, Dale Earnhardt Jr. looking for a left side bite. They'll make a 4-tire change and an air pressure adjustment there to try to give him what he needs.
So Kevin Harvick with a 2.5-second lead over Denny Hamlin. And we'll see whether that grows, shrinks, or changes in some fashion as the leaders approach a round of stops. Here's Clint Boyer on the pit lane.
He had been running 9th, Alan, before this round started. He'll make no chassis adjustment changes. Good news for Clint. He lost spots on pit road, getting stuck behind the 10 car of Danica Patrick. He has gained them all back, and that's because his car is running so well, and that's why he wants no chassis adjustments on it.
And Boyer fell from 8th to 17th on the last set of pit stops.
So Sam Hornish get in awfully hot as he's on pit road here. I hope he wasn't speeding coming in.
Jimmy Johnson in as well, Vince.
Jimmy didn't like that set of tires that he had on. He said, I think the car is okay, but let's put on a better set of tires. He hoped anyway. They made a chassis adjustment and an air pressure adjustment as well. Mike?
Sam Hornish having a very strong run, hit pit road running 6th. They'll make a 4-tire change and an air pressure adjustment. He's just a little bit loose, but otherwise pretty happy with his race car.
Third place, Martin Truex Jr. on the pit lane.
What a great run for Martin Truex Jr. Allen started 28th. He just gave up 3rd. He said the car is just a little bit tight. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment, 4 tires. He can lock up a chase berth here tonight with a 14th place or better finish.
4th place, Kyle Busch is on pit road. He was told that his teammates got some help from a left rear wedge adjustment. Do you want that? Kyle got it. 4 fresh tires. Vince?
They warned Kevin Harvick about speeding on pit lane, said do not get a penalty here. It's a chassis adjustment because he's a little bit too snug. 4 tires and Sunoco fuel for the man who was the race leader when he hit pit road, Kevin Harvick.
Matt Kenseth also on and off pit road. Denny Hamlin now the leader. Danica Patrick almost missed pit road.
Saw her do that last night in the nationwide race. She was running pretty fast whenever she entered pit road there.
Danica Patrick complaining that her car has been just a little bit too loose. He doesn't like it like that, wants to be a little bit more conservative and tight, allows her to be a little bit more aggressive on throttle. They'll make a 4-tire change here to the 10 car with a little bit of an air pressure adjustment, trying to help her just a little bit. Meanwhile, Joey Logano coming down pit road. He's another guy who has not found exactly what he's looking for in that race car. Still feeling a little bit ill behind the wheel of that machine, although he's still sticking with it. A 4-tire change, no chassis adjustments for the 20 car as we go to Dave.
Denny Hamlin, he said that the car is not turning like it was before in the center of the corner. Darren Grubb asked him if he wanted to go back on some of the changes they made. That's yes. That'll be a wedge adjustment back, air pressure adjustments back, 4 fresh tires, and full of fuel.
So Hamlin leaving is going to finish the cycle of green flag pit stops. And should put Kevin Harvick back around into the #1 spot.
Yeah, by quite a margin, too.
So a busy time on pit road for all of the drivers and teams. Kenyatta Houston changing front tires for David Gilliland on a warm night in Atlanta, all covered up in his safety clothing and working hard. So much at stake for drivers trying to race into the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Carl Edwards needing to win tonight in Atlanta or next Saturday night in Richmond, or find a way to race his way into the top 10 in points. And here in Atlanta tonight, not having the kind of night he would hope for. Edwards running right now back in 6th position. By pitting earlier than some others a minute ago, he worked his way up as high as 4th, but now those with fresher tires beginning to chip their way back around that 99 car. There's some trouble for Clint Boyer, Dave.
Alan, voltmeter flashing, other indicators flashing. He had turned everything off, including his cool box, all evening long. Only the gear fan was left on, but still, they couldn't maintain the voltage in the battery. This will be a battery change. It was around 10 volts a couple laps ago, and they finally decided we can't take it anymore. Tough break for the 15. The car handled so well, but could not get that charge.
Started last, was running 7th at the time of this misfortune.
Andy, they changed engines before the race, had to go to the rear. Any chance that something there could be a miss?
Well, yeah, I mean, they changed the alternator's part of that when they changed out the engine. I don't know if maybe they had a problem with the alternator on the engine they put in that didn't have any practice time to verify that it was charging. I mean, you can check that in the garage with it idling, but sometimes those issues don't expose themselves until you get in racing conditions.
Well, it's a real shame. You had a fast race car tonight.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. You see just how frustrated that Clint is in the car.
Still has a chance to clinch a place in the chase tonight on points, where he was starting the night and so on, but he had a chance to win maybe too. Kevin Harvick out in front has just put Danica Patrick in that 10 car, a 4th lap down. 34th place for Patrick.
I can see Kevin Harvick. I know we've said this and they haven't documented that they haven't been that strong. I talked to Kevin a little bit at Michigan a few weeks ago. He was telling me he thought they were making changes. See Jeff Gordon making a pass on Ryan Newman, who really gets sideways there. But Kevin was optimistic that they were heading in a right direction, making some changes that he thought was going to benefit this race team and help them become competitive again. Because as he told me, he said, I don't just want to be in the chase. He said, you know, it's no fun just being there. You want to have an opportunity to win. This is showing that they may have that.
And for anybody that struggled through the course of a winless season, what happened with Tony Stewart last year has to give everybody that attitude that, hey, look, get hot at the right time and it can happen.
Yeah, you can't give up. I mean, like you said, Harvick struggled all year long. They've got it turned around the right direction. It couldn't be a better time for this team.
I just love watching these guys work the steering wheel inside these cars on this racetrack and how hard they're working behind the wheel at such high speeds.
Well, these two have been having a good race. Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski back and forth.
And once again, as Kyle came out of the pits, his car wasn't that strong getting up to go on the fresh tires. But as he gets a few laps, the air pressure's built up, then he starts moving back forward.
Kyle Busch running 4th, Brad Keselowski 5th, Kevin Harvick leading.
Corner. Clear. Da-na-na. Da-na-na.
Yeah, he's having that kind of night.
Look at him working. This is Kevin Harvick on Twitter just before the race. Motivation. New baby Keelan at the racetrack for the first time. It won't be the last. They'd love to have a victory lane photo to go with that one.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Atlanta, presented by Pennzoil, is brought to you by Nationwide Insurance. Nationwide is on your side. The Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road. And Coca-Cola. It's time to refuel. Coca-Cola, open happiness.
And welcome back to a Sunday night race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Under the lights with 130 laps to go, Kevin Harvick is currently out front. Perhaps no surprise considering we saw him dominate the race last night in the Nationwide Series. We have seen 13 lead changes and just 2 cautions for 8 laps. So far, though, it's been Kyle Busch we've seen out front the most. Our in-race reporter currently in 3rd, one of the biggest movers. And in the standings, if the race were over right now, which is not, Greg Biffle would be out front. Those are the 3 guys who are currently locked.
Well, one thing you got to remember, this is a long race. Talking 500 miles, 129 laps to go yet. But Kevin Harvick, man, he learned a lot last night in that Nationwide race. And Brad, that car is flat flying out there.
Yeah, he is on a rail. And also Denny Hamlin, I mean, he has been really a surprise tonight. I can't believe how strong he's been. You know, last week, obviously, with the win, but this team has just really, he and crew chief Darren Grubb, come on strong last couple of weeks and put themselves in this championship picture.
Well, let's get up to speed with our leaders. Vince, starting with you. You have Kevin Harvick.
That's right, and Kevin says the car's not quite as good as it has been. It's starting to go away a little bit, and although you see him down there on the yellow line, he says it's not as comfortable down low as it has been earlier in the race. Remember, he started 24th. He's driven all the way to the front. He's your leader. Dave?
Brad just said he couldn't believe how strong Denny Hamlin was. I bet he went through the garage and talked to Darian Grubb the way I did and saw that little bit of smile, a little wiggle right there. Darian had the smile on his face because the car's been good since they unloaded it from the truck, and they've stayed in the same direction. They knew they were going to be good. Shannon?
Well, Martin Truex Jr. started 28th. He is now in 3rd place. He did have a slow pit stop on that last stop. When he came down, the right rear got hung up, and it was about a 16.7 second pit stop. His crew told him, don't worry, we didn't lose any position. We're still in 3rd. As you see, there's the right rear, and as the guy tries to pull it off, it does get hung up. Made it a little slow of a pit stop, but he didn't lose the 3rd place position. He just lost some ground to Denny Hamlin, as he's currently 11 seconds behind Denny Hamlin. Dave?
For the 18 car, when I talked to Dave Rogers earlier today, he said, you know what, we had a very fast car in happy hour, the final practice, but we never made a 20-lap run. So where will it go? That's part of the challenge here tonight, is to manage this racetrack and the race cars and see what you can do with your car as the night goes on. As far as Brad Keselowski goes, it's the same kind of story. He says the car really hasn't been lacking a whole lot of grip. It just doesn't have stability in it right now. Not handling poorly is what he said, just doesn't have stability. So a little bit of a subtle issue for Brad right now. Mike?
Dave, under the circumstances where Carl Edwards knows he absolutely needs a win to make the chase, he said Atlanta's the perfect racetrack for him. He loves sliding through the corner. Well, he may be sliding through the corner a little bit more than he wanted to on that last run. Said it was so slick, it was like he was on oil. They made a wedge adjustment, and the car has been a little bit better. Suddenly, as you can see, he's working to the bottom of the racetrack. He can move around a little bit better than he could on the last run. Behind him, you'll find Sam Hornish having a very solid run tonight. inside the top 10. Just fine-tuning on that race car. It was just a tick looser than he would have liked on that last run, so they made 0.2 of a pound of an air pressure. They took that out of the right rear, trying to tighten him up just a little bit. Vince?
The 48 of Jimmy Johnson currently running 8th. Johnson, the only driver to make the chase all 9 seasons, comes into the race second in points. He's had a pretty decent race car. It's not been great. Chad Canals, the crew chief, just told him we were faster when we were looser. And Jimmy replied, yeah, I'm definitely too tight across the center right now. So they've got that car to work on yet. Now the 24 for Jeff Gordon, they've been looking for the sweet spot on that one since early in the race. He led early on, charged right to the front, in fact, but they've not been able to get it back as good as they'd like, and especially in traffic. As you see, there's nobody there in front of him, but when he gets up in traffic, it's a little bit too loose. Now the 17 of Matt Kenseth, he said the middle is no better than it was, and he's lacking rear grip. That's really what they've kind of been fighting. They're running 10th right now. They've been around that spot, but they haven't had a car to challenge yet tonight. Nicole?
Thanks, Vince. Kevin Harvick out front of Denny Hamlin, who's really giving Harvick right now a run for his money.
Yeah, he's definitely running him down a little bit, Nicole. He's getting closer and closer, and they're working on the cars throughout the night. You can definitely tell that everybody's adjusting to this racetrack, whether it's wedge adjustments, air pressure adjustments, what have you. And Carl Edwards, here's another guy that I'm looking at. Been focusing on him all day long. He really has to get it done. He needs to win this race to get locked in.
Green flag stops underway, Shannon.
That's right, Nicole. They're going to continue to work on this 16 car for Greg Biffle. He says when he gets off the gas, it just snaps loose. They're going to make a track bar adjustment in 4 tires. Greg Biffle is out of his pit box. Guys?
All right, Shannon. So Denny Hamlin, as he steadily has since these leaders last made green flag pit stops just a little under 40 laps ago, slowly, steadily closing in on Kevin Harvick up front.
And you see Marcus Ambrose in his pit box, guys. He says it's better through the center, but really loose off. So they're going to go to work on that 9 car, make a 4-tire change for Marcus Ambrose. Remember, he is in the wild card hunt with that win at Watkins Glen. So tonight is all about getting a win.
Edwards and Hornish, 99-22. Montoya on 42 is on fresh tires, so he should be a handful around these guys for a minute. Looking for a way through.
Well, you can just see Carl Edwards sawing the wheel coming off the corner.
Yeah, off the corner, even when he got on the flat of the straightaway, still having to make an adjustment.
Don't you love that? Running all over the racetrack. Bottom, top, middle. Anywhere you can find some grip for your race car.
Mark Martin has been happy with the balance of this car. They're going to take 4 tires. He's made 51 starts here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Started this race 6th after really struggling in practice. 4 tires for the 55.
Jeff Burton on pit road now looking for a 4-tire change, also an air pressure adjustment and a chassis adjustment as well. They're going to try to tighten him up just a little bit. Meanwhile, Tony Stewart, they've been struggling throughout the course of the evening. Their last stop, they pulled the spring rubber from the right rear. Here, this time they'll make a wedge adjustment and a 4-tire change for Tony Stewart, Vince.
The 17 of Matt Kenseth said he can hardly drive it and wants to wreck on entry and exit. They made a big air pressure adjustment, 4 tires for Kenseth.
Brian Newman lost a couple of spots on that run, was running 12th before everyone started pitting. Why? Loosest I've been, he said. It'll be a left rear wedge adjustment, 4 tires and fuel. Vince?
The 48 of Jimmy Johnson, we told you just a moment ago, he said it's just too tight across the center. Track bar adjustment on the 48, also giving him 4 fresh tires and air pressure adjustment for Jimmy Johnson as well. Mike?
Carl Edwards coming in saying the car's been free off, tight center. They'll make a chassis adjustment, also a 4-tire change for the 99. Remember, Carl Edwards has one objective today, win. They'll be as aggressive as they possibly can going for it. 4-tire change is complete there.
Jeff Gordon in that 24 starts off too tight and then gets loose. They've been dealing with that throughout much of the day. You see the wrench going in the right back end there. That's a track bar adjustment, 4 tires. Jeff Gordon desperately needing to get to the front, needs a win to make the chase. They look good early, but they haven't been quite as good since.
Kevin Harvick still leading. Denny Hamlin by a little. And waiting on those leaders to make their call to pit road in this cycle of stops. Top two well away from third place Martin Truex Jr. 14 seconds the gap between them. And this is the time now as a driver where you're really dependent on your spotter, because you got all these people coming at you that are on fresh tires, and you need to know what's going on, and you can't see all that well behind you.
Yes, a handful as it is, and then you have these cars on fresher tires all around you. Mike 88 in.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr. just has not been able to find the balance they've been looking for tonight. And that was the concern of Steve Letarte coming into the race. Talking to him beforehand, his concern was speed and balance. They still haven't been able to dial it in. They'll make a chassis adjustment and a 4-tire change for the 88 to win.
Kevin Harvick out in front now for 78 of the 213 laps. We're past 300 miles in this race. Harvick, Hamlin, Truex, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Sam Hornish Jr., the only drivers that have yet to visit pit road in this cycle of stops. And again, you see Hamlin, guys, coming by him on fresher tires.
You can see just what a difference this really makes. Oh, see Biffle still not happy with that race car sliding around, and he's got fresher tires on.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a reason I'd make a decision to go ahead and pit, even if I wasn't wanting to make a stop right now, is not to get wrecked or run over by cars that had fresh tires. You're really in a vulnerable spot when you're out there running a second or two off of what these cars can run on fresh tires.
Sorry for the whoa while you were talking.
Yeah. Hey, I was thinking the same thing.
That's Biffle hanging on.
Andy, just looking ahead a little bit, a question here. We've seen the two leaders in particular run a little bit longer than everybody else. We're getting down. They're seeing a lot of green flag racing. Are they still going to stop that soon, or are they just want to have fresher tires as they go on later on?
Well, I mean, like you say, these cars that are struggling with their handling are going to have to get in and get tires and try to make up some time. When you got a car handling as good as those two leaders, the 29 and 11, you can afford to stay out a lot longer. I was watching lap times for Harvick. He was still below 33 seconds on the old tire.
Saw Harvick waving the hand out the window, letting those behind him know he's coming to pit lane.
Reminding Kevin Harvick, no chances. They want to make sure they don't have any pit lane speeding violations. It's going to be a 4-tire change for Harvick. Still a little bit too snug. A track bar adjustment for the 29 as well. It's been a good night. He's won here in trucks. He's won a nationwide, and he scored his first ever Cup win here. He looks to add to that this evening.
Good solid stop.
Brad Keselowski coming to pit road. Sam Hornish coming to pit road. Denny Hamlin staying out, Dave.
And the two-car Keselowski will give up the 5th position. Again, just a stability issue was the biggest thing for Brad. So they'll get an air pressure adjustment and 4 tires for him and send him on his way. Mike?
The balance on Sam Hornish's car has swung from tight early in the race to loose now. They'll make a track bar adjustment and a 4-tire change. A funky kind of angle that Sam Hornish took to his pit box, so making it tough on his front tire changer. Shannon.
Martin Truex Jr. cannot roll the center on this 56 car. They're going to put 4 tires. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment to try to help him out with that. Sunoco fuel, Dave.
When Kyle Busch's car dives into the corner, he couldn't turn it. Do you want track bar? No. How about wedge? Yes. Out of the right rear, 4 fresh tires, he's gone.
So waiting on Denny Hamlin to complete this cycle of pit stops. He's run 2 more laps now than the guy he was basically nose to tail with for the lead, Kevin Harvick. And it'll be 3.
Makes you wonder, Andy. They're looking at possibility of stretching this a few more laps and making this just one more stop.
Yeah, that's what I'm sure that's what they're trying to do, is get inside that fuel window. Like I said, those leaders that were running so well, they've pulled such a big lead on the 3rd, 4th, 5th place cars that they can afford to do that. I mean, Hamlin's obviously going to give up some time to Harvick because he's already made that stop, and by the time he makes his, he'll be way behind. But if he only has to make one more stop, Well, Harvick has to make 2. You can do the math.
We'll see when Denny Hamlin brings it to pit lane. We're in Atlanta. Telecast presented by Pennzoil.
Tagless.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at the Atlanta Motor Speedway coming up on the 350-mile mark of tonight's 500-mile race. Our telecast presented by Pennzoil. Kevin Harvick back to the race lead after a cycle of pit stops. You're watching the race for 6th. Kyle Busch 18. Well, let's make it for 5th. Jimmy Johnson 48. Kyle Busch 18. Carl Edwards 99. Brad Keselowski in the 2.
I think they might have made some nice adjustments on that 48 car. Jimmy Johnson came out of the pits running a lot better than what he has been. Kyle Busch, kind of the same things. You see Keselowski now going around Edwards, but Kyle Busch struggling on the fresh tires to get up to speed, but gets a few laps on his tires, then he's able to start going back forward again.
Edwards, Keselowski, just comparing the two. Carl stopped 8 laps before Brad did, so Brad's got 8 lap fresher tires in making that pass. Now, Kevin Harvick, when the cycle of green flag pit stops started, had a 1.3 second lead on Denny Hamlin. That lead is now a lot bigger.
Yeah, it's about 6 seconds, almost 6 seconds, but it's closing quickly. I saw Harvick make that stop, kind of short stop. Hamlin stayed out till just about time he was going to need fuel. And you can see just visibly how much you give up on the track once that stop's completed. But I really think that Hamlin's going to try to make this on one more stop.
Oh, keep
assuming green, too.
Yeah. Keep an eye on the gap between Harvick and Hamlin and see what kind of ground Denny makes up. He stopped 5 laps after Kevin did.
Yeah, it'd be about 52 laps each if they're going to make this work, Dave.
DJ, it was a clean pit stop, 4 tires. They made a wedge adjustment for the car that was just a little bit tight, but Denny was concerned that they'd left him out on tires for so long. Listen.
This is frustrating, having to make up a half a track every run area.
10-4, bud. We got the 2 longest runs of the race. We have to finish it here. Just do what you've been doing. Maintain your speed.
This was the plan all along. You guys called it very correctly. They told him after the last pit stop, that opens our window for 2 more stops. They wanted to get to about lap 225 or 226. They hit pit road on lap 221, but they can stretch it, make it on 1 more stop to that lap 325 finish line, Alan.
He's already knocked almost 3 seconds of the gap off that he was behind Kevin Harvick right after the pit stops.
Yeah, this is sometimes it's difficult to get the driver on board. He's out there, he looks at that gap. He's been looking right at the leader for most of the race, and all of a sudden he can't see him. And he's thinking, oh man, I don't know about this. And you got to assure him it's going to work out.
Been talking all night about tires and fall off and speeds. That's a comparison of the last lap between Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin, and you see the 5-lap difference on the freshness of the tires and what it means in speed.
Yeah, it's still hard to understand that when you can't hardly see that leader, though, and you, as Andy said, you've been running right there. And also, you know, Denny's now going to, with these next 2 runs, is going to have to run quite a bit further than what he's run all night on these sets on a set of tires. So that also starts to concern you as a driver.
Yeah, but this thing goes green. Now, Denny's going to be really happy. He's catching Harvick really quick right now, and he'll probably end up passing for the lead on this run.
This the point I should tell you about the statistics on the late yellow flags here in Atlanta?
Yeah, now you have them.
They happen more times than not. We'll talk about it in a bit. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Our telecast presented by Pennzoil, and remind you to go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. A lot of college football in Atlanta this weekend, and more to come on Monday night. ACC rivals square off on ESPN. It's Stephen Washington looking to navigate Georgia Tech against the top-ranked Virginia Tech defense. After a stellar debut season, junior Logan Thomas has the 16th-ranked Hokies aiming for another run at the Coastal Division title. College football primetime presented by Russell Athletic tomorrow at 8 on ESPN. Also available live on Watch ESPN. See, we had Clemson and Auburn. We had NC State and Tennessee. Now we're going to have Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech.
Yeah, hard to go up there and beat the Hokies on their home field, though.
And we're about to have Denny Hamlin chase down Kevin Harvick for the race lead.
I think he might be on board with this strategy.
Think he's
now.
feeling better?
Yeah, I think so.
He was 7.6 seconds behind after staying out 5 laps more on older tires. Now he's 0.2 seconds behind. It's Ryan Newman racing to stay on the lead lap. Newman now in 13th spot, a lap down.
You can see how Harvick and Hamlin are both so low in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 both that they're throwing sparks up off the splitter of racing. They're wearing that front splitter out.
Got loose Hamlin.
Now Martin Truex Jr. is in 3rd position, but he's some 13.5 seconds back, Shannon.
Well, you heard the 11 talking about why they stayed out, maybe some fuel mileage stuff. Martin Truex Jr. and this team, well, they're talking about it as well, Alan.
What we got, Martin, is we tried to run it out as far as we could because we're right at a pit window if this thing goes green. So we tried to run it out as far as we could without losing a bunch of time to the guys behind us that had already pitted.
Cool, man. We're still 3rd, ain't we?
Yes, sir, 3rd.
Well, Truex is bought in.
Yeah, he's on board with the strategy. As long as he's up there where he thinks he should be, he's running 3rd, having a good solid night tonight.
So, talking about if this thing goes green, as Chad Johnson was telling Martin Truex, right? I gotta bring you in on the numbers here. 8 of the last 9 Atlanta races, the last green run was less than 20 laps. So a very late caution. However, the exception to that was last year, and that last run was 71 laps. Which one do you place your bet on if you're the crew chief?
But right now, it looks like one of those green kind of runs. I mean, I don't see anything that's telling me that we're going to see a caution. But you just never know. I mean, you can't plan that stuff. That's why you look at this historical data and try to go by it. If it says there's probably going to be one, then there's probably going to be one.
I'm thinking that this thing's going to the end here.
I'll take the under. Turn 2, trouble, caution flag is out.
Well, it's not going to go green to the end like we were speculating, but we still have 84 laps to go. So this is going to kind of change the strategy up for everybody.
That kind of gets them to running 40 laps.
Yeah, it's going to be
about
easy
like
for
they
everybody
were.
to make that.
Checking for confirmation on the cause of the caution from NASCAR.
I think Montoya might have got a piece of the wall.
That's what we're hearing.
You usually see a lot more of that. We just haven't seen the drivers up next to the wall very much.
Oh, yeah.
There's our confirmation.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. Just that little slip.
So just the 3rd caution of this race is out, and we are pushing 375 miles in. And so now that strategy of being off sequence and one needs to make 2 stops and one needs to make 1, that's all changed.
Everybody's back on the same playing field now. Just got to make good pit stops. Try to get that track position. We're going to see a crazy restart, too.
Second free pass of the night for Paul Menard to get back on the lead lap. And with 82 laps to go, the leaders are headed in. Vince?
The 29 of Kevin Harvick. Kevin says it's better than last time. It's really good early, goes through a little lull, and then comes back to him. 4 tires, no changes.
Martin Truex Jr. just needs a little bit of help rolling the center. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment, add a little tape to the grill. 4 tires. Dave.
4th place, Kyle Busch says pretty good. I like it. Tape on the grill, no other changes. 2nd place, Denny Hamlin. Just a little air pressure adjustment to change the car. Tight in the center is his complaint. Mike.
Carl Edwards has been tight. They're going to take some wedge and some air out of the right rear. Also a 4-tire change on the 99.
Going to have a lead change on the pit lane.
Good stop by Hamlin's group.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, telecast presented by Pennzoil. Hope you're having a happy Labor Day weekend. We are under caution for just the third time in this race with 80 laps to go. The AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge top 4 qualifiers for the night. Who's going to be the top finisher of them? Well, right now, Kyle Busch is running the furthest forward. Remember to text FAST to 34763 and play AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge, or visit AT&TFastestDriver.com. You could have a chance to win 4 Gs just by playing. Been kind of a struggle tonight for Greg Biffle and Tony Stewart, with Kyle Busch running in third. So lead change on the pit stops. Denny Hamlin now out in front.
Yeah, like I said, Harvick had a solid stop, 13.4, but Hamlin's crew had a stellar stop with that 12.1. That was the difference. Kind of put these pit stops together, you can kind of see just how it works. It's not much difference. I mean, we're only talking about just a little over a second between the 2 stops. Jack dropped just a little quicker on the 11.
That's it. That's the difference. Now, they'll be side by side for the restart. Hamlin has the lane choice. He has chosen the inside lane. By the way, a nod to the pink pace car. Atlanta Motor Speedway and Chevrolet supporting the cause of breast cancer research. And the money being donated to charity for every lap that pace car leads tonight. It's probably going to get to lead a few more. Don't forget, tomorrow, Mac Tools U.S. Nationals for the NHRA from Indianapolis. Highlight of the season for the drag racers. ESPN 2 noon Eastern tomorrow. Then next weekend, it's on to Richmond. The NASCAR Nationwide Series Friday night, presented by Bombardier, 7 Eastern Time ESPN. And the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series and the Chase deciding race on ABC next Saturday night at 7 Eastern Time. Restart's always interesting and slippery here in Atlanta. Kyle Busch had trouble on an earlier one.
Hey, bud, do you remember what happened on the last restart? Spun my tires real bad? Yeah, that was the outcome, but I was wondering if you knew why. Just giving you a reminder.
Yeah, he's had a hard time getting up to speed, whether it's green flag or the last restart that they had. Be interesting to see. He's on that inside line. Is he going to be able to get going this time?
Going to get going well enough to get a shot at displacing Kevin Harvick from second.
He didn't get going initially very well, but he did drive it down into turn 1 pretty hard, but he's still going to lose that spot there to Truex.
For the lead, Harvick looking inside. Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, 48-99, 6th and 7th.
Well, Martin Truex moved up to about a half lane. Whoa, Jimmy Johnson really sideways. Martin Truex trying to take over second spot, though. He got a great run. He's going to take that spot from Kevin Harvick.
Quietly, steadily, all season long. In the lead group in the championship, hasn't yet visited victory lane. Truex would love to change that in his sponsor's hometown and on a weekend where he and they announced the contract extension to stay together with Michael Waltrip Racing.
Gotta say, I think that restart was a lot tamer than I thought it was going to be. It got strung out pretty quick there.
And Hamlin's put some gap on him. Remember how much ground he made up on Kevin Harvick after the last set of green flag pit stops.
I think he knows that 29 is really strong. Probably about the last, you say 10 or 12 laps of a run, Andy, and probably needs to put as much distance as he can.
Who is that? David Gilliland?
Yeah, I believe it's 38 and slow on the bottom. But he might make it back. Maybe not, though.
NASCAR's keeping an eye on it. We'll see. If Gilliland were to not make it back around and another caution, that would make things interesting for some of these crew chiefs. It's going to be close. He's still rolling.
I think he's going to make it.
Jimmy Johnson up to 6th as Gilliland gets back to the pit lane and we stay under green. Really haven't called Mark Martin's number a lot tonight in that 55, but he's in the top 10 and on the lead lap.
Yeah, we saw Mark early in the race struggling with his race car quite a bit. He was not happy in practice with it, but looked like they made some nice adjustments throughout the night. Got him up inside the top 10 right now in 8th.
24, Jeff Gordon. Sam Hornish Jr., 22. That's for 10th place. And that 39 in that group in the picture there, Ryan Newman, is not on the lead lap. He's the first car 1 lap down, kind of hoping for a caution flag and a chance to get the free pass. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., 1st and 2nd. Carl Edwards is losing several spots. 99 car is off the pace. Brad Keselowski running in 5th position. And there's Carl slowing down.
Yeah, he definitely got an issue.
Mike, you know what's going on with this 99?
Yeah, they think it's a battery. They asked him to switch batteries, but that hasn't corrected the problem. But no voltage on the 99 right now, and that's a serious concern.
Yeah, similar problem with Clint Boyer. He lost 4 laps changing that battery.
And Carl Edwards, with Tony Stewart struggling tonight, had kind of put himself in position to maybe had a shot at racing into the top 10 on points at Richmond next Saturday night. But if he ends up losing laps here and falling down the leaderboard, it's going to back up to, again, be win to get in for Carl.
He's just staying out there right now, hoping for a caution.
Yeah.
That might fall before he could go a lap down, and then they would have caution time to make a battery change.
I mean, that's
if they get him to the end of the race.
Just ride it out here for a few laps, see if it'll keep running, at least at some pace.
Well, Martin Truex has been faster than Denny Hamlin. He's closing in on him right now, but just wondered if Martin may be seeing that lead up there. Is he getting a little too much out of his tires right now and might pay the price on the back end of this run?
Isn't it the Kansas race earlier this year that Martin Truex Jr. led the most laps, and Denny Hamlin went by him in the late going and stole the victory away?
Maybe he can change that.
Hamlin leading Truex now. Still a long way to go, though. Over 100 miles left.
Rethink possible.
There is the race for the lead in the Advocare 500 at Atlanta. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., 11 and 56. About to put Carl Edwards a lap down. 99 still limping around the racetrack at reduced speed. And showing some smoke.
Yeah, that's not a battery issue there. That motor's given up.
Shut it off here. Just shut it off. Get to the apron.
Here we go.
I was wondering about Truex if he was running this thing too hard, but he went to the high line as the cautions come out now. Wow.
Pardon the interruption of that race for the lead, but
yeah,
Carl Edwards has gone up in smoke.
Boy, Truex did not want to see that caution. He had just found the line right there.
And sadly, on 2 fronts. First of all, it would have been fun to see if Truex could have gotten the lead using that high line. Second, because Edwards had just been lapped, no free pass because he's the cause of the caution. Ryan Newman had been in that first car a lap down spot since the restart and doesn't get the free pass. That's bad. That's bad luck.
No, that's bad luck right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sure don't see that happen very often.
And it's like I said, he'd almost raced his way in to a position where he had enough points to get in the chase.
Take it to the garage if you already missed it. Come to it.
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, you know, anything can happen next week, but even a win at this point in time might not even be enough.
Now, let me...
Come out the pipes pretty hard, I think.
It's an oddity to just take a look at. Guys that finished second in the championship.
Hey, Messick, we done? Yeah, we're done. All right, guys, we need to get it back to the garage here.
It just doesn't go well for them the year after. Remember Denny Hamlin, the runner-up in 2010, the difficult year he had last year. Carl Edwards not in the chase at the moment and winless so far this year. And the pattern goes back.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be something to this. It does take a lot out of a team and driver when you work so hard, get so close, and don't get it done.
Pit road is open. Here come the leaders. Vince?
Kevin Harvick said it just started out too tight on that last run, but then it got better, but it wasn't good in traffic. They're going to take a half-round wedge out of the left rear, also put a little tape on the grill. They're going to be about 10 laps short from this spot. Shannon?
Martin Truex Jr. says he just needs a little help in 3 and 4. Temperatures are good, so they're going to add some tape to the grill as well. Dave?
Fourth place, Kyle Busch says, I want to turn better in the center, but I don't want to lose that rear end grip. Just a slight air pressure adjustment, 4 tires. Your leader, Denny Hamlin, 4 tires. They're going to add some tape to the grill. Too tight.
Close call there, but the 11's going to hold the lead. They had to chase when they took the right rear tire off to send it around the car. They kind of had to chase it down before they could go change the left side tires, but they still held the #1 spot. Bet there's a lot of guys shutting the cars off under this yellow to save fuel. Might be at the point of bringing that discussion into things too. Here's the race off pit road. No, we talked about the championship runner-up hangover. Carl Edwards, in a way, tied Tony Stewart for the championship last November in that terrific finale at Homestead Miami Speedway. And Tony got the tiebreaker by more wins in what was the greatest championship fight in the modern era of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Carl fighting desperately to find a way to get into the chase for this year. Tonight's not going to help. An engine problem sends Carl to the garage. He will fail to finish a race for the first time since October 2009 at Charlotte, 102 races ago.
Wow, I didn't realize the streak was that long, but that's going to hurt. That really leaves a mark.
And it'll all come down to Richmond for Carl. By the way, a race where in the spring race there, he led the most laps, and a confusion and controversy over a late restart. And he was penalized for jumping that restart. Saw him not get a chance to win.
Still going to be tough for him, though. Even if he gets a win at Richmond, and Kyle Busch has a good night like he's having tonight, it may not be enough.
56 laps to go in the race when the green flag waves. There are 15 cars on the lead lap. 5 just took wave-arounds to get there, but up front, those first 4 have been fighting for the lead. Hamlin and Truex, Harvick, and Kyle Busch.
Harvick got a great start. Looking inside, he's going to get it.
Yeah, he had to restart on the outside the last time, and that didn't work to his advantage at all. You see Truex struggling up top.
Oh, and then look at Hamlin get the big run off the corner.
And here comes Keselowski. Oh, trouble. Jimmy Johnson turned into the wall. He's collected Ryan Newman. Sam Hornish also involved.
Skid Hornish. 22. Coming to pit road.
They lost 3 positions on their pit stop. I don't know if they had a problem or whatever it was, but get you back a little bit further, and these are the kind of things that happen. Usually we see them after people have trouble on pit stops.
And for Ryan Newman, it's all going to come down to Richmond next week as well. One of the drivers fighting for that second wild card spot. And with 1 win, he would have to have everybody else with 1 win and be ahead of them in points. Well, after this tonight, he's not going to be ahead of them in points. He's going to need to win at Richmond next Saturday to have a shot to get in. That's a lot of damage on that 48 car.
Yeah, it didn't look like they were going to get a win tonight, but certainly didn't need this. Not like it's going to hurt them much. I mean, when the reset comes, they're still going to be up top. Another win would have been nice, but it didn't look like I said, they were going to get it tonight.
So Jimmy Johnson was 9th on the restart. It definitely looked like some contact from behind somewhere that sent that 48 car sideways into the wall halfway down the back straightaway. Oh, Sam got squeezed.
Yeah, that's just the wild restart we were anticipating the time before. Exactly what we see this time.
Yeah, I think Jimmy thought that Sam had a lane to come up. He didn't, because he had that 39 Ryan Newman right up there beside him. Looked like the first contact was actually Newman hitting the wall.
Boy, look at the sparks flying in that shot. The little bits of metal hitting the racetrack coming off those race cars. So 5th caution of the race is out, and some of those hoping to race into the chase in trouble late in Atlanta. Carl Edwards and Ryan Newman. Cleanup continues for the 5th caution in tonight's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race in Atlanta. Telecast presented by Pennzoil. 52 to go, and an accident racing for 9th place on the restart off of turn 2.
A little better angle here. I think Jimmy Johnson didn't have any idea that Ryan Newman was the outside of Sam Hornish there. And it's not that Ryan Newman did anything wrong. He just got to run off the corner, and Jimmy just really didn't leave enough room there either. But probably shouldn't have been in that spot.
We need 2 back to the 20 top side. Stay down, stay down. Stay down, stay down, stay down, stay all the way down. Stay all the way down. Clear high. Got a guy inside. Check up, check up, check up. Just watch them here. They're blocking the track. Stay high. Get up to speed before they hit you. Come on. Watch them here to come back down. Just watch this guy. There you go. Good job.
Three wide when you're expecting 2, it looks like.
Yep. Yes, racing on restarts at Atlanta. A lot of people did a nice job missing that. That could have been a much bigger accident than what it actually was with those 3 cars.
So for Ryan Newman, it leaves a big hole at Richmond. Got a win to get in. Jimmy Johnson looking around to see what kind of damage to his car. Are we getting back in or not? Pit lane's going to be open this time. We see some stops. I know there would be at least a few. There were some guys that took a wave around before that caution to get back on the lead lap. We know we'll see them. That'd be Dale Jr., Jeff Burton, Regan Smith, and Jamie McMurray. What about the front runners? Split decision. Vince?
Boy, they had a long conversation about whether to just go fuel only here, but they decided at the last moment to go ahead and put on 4 tires. Kevin Harvick believes he's got a car that's fast enough to get to the front, but track position has been huge, Dave.
Brad Kay and Paul Wolf had a short conversation. I think we should come. Yeah, I think so too. Remember what happened in practice? Yeah, let's do it. Come on, 4 tires, no chassis adjustments, and they'll send Brad back out with the freshest rubber at Atlanta.
and enough fuel they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I like the idea. Once you put any kind of heat and get some laps on the tires here, even though it was very short time, I just don't think they ever come back to be as good.
Hamlin and Truex do not pit under the yellow flag. Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth stay out as well. This is going to get interesting. And the car count back in the garage is adding up.
All right.
Second to last race till the chase, and a tough night for some of those hoping to race their way in. Tony Stewart, 10th in points, not having a great night. He hasn't had any wrecks or things like that, but he's just not run well. Kyle Busch in the mix for what would be a huge win in that 18 car, showing third at the moment. Carl Edwards, now this is not good. Smoke from behind the 99 car, he is out of the race. And then Ryan Newman caught up in this with Jimmy Johnson and Sam Hornish Jr. And Newman will have to go down to Richmond hoping to win to get in. Mike Massaro's in the garage.
And Carl Edwards out of the car. He's already debriefed with his engine folks. It appears to be a piston problem. Out of this race, but not out of the chase yet. You still got one more race to qualify here. What are your thoughts now, big picture, going to Richmond?
Real big picture? I'm not a real religious person, but I feel like somebody's trying to teach me a lesson. And, you know, this year has just been amazing in a bad luck kind of way. But the big picture is we were fast. I was having a good time out there tonight. My pit crew was great, and we're going to Richmond where anything can happen, and hopefully whatever happens involves us winning the race and making this chase. We don't quit, you know, not for Subway, fast and all for Ford, everybody, but it's just almost too much to put into words. It's so frustrating and so shocking that this could happen tonight.
So what's it like going to a short track, Richmond, the final race of the regular season, knowing you got to win?
I'm probably going to drive pretty hard, and it's gonna be fun. I mean, I'm just gonna go out there and hang it out and do everything I can to win, and heck with the consequences. We'll go racing, and maybe we can do something spectacular. But we didn't need this, but at the end of the day, it's not the worst thing in the world. Bad day at the races is still better than a good day, you know, with a real job. So we'll just go represent everyone the best we can. Hopefully make this thing.
Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Alan?
Gotta like that statement.
Keeping it in perspective.
And for Carl Edwards, 2012 has been a lesson in bad luck, I guess you could say. And, you know, when you look at Richmond, he led 206 of the 400 laps there in the race back in the spring. And again, was racing for the lead on that late restart when he got black flag for jumping the restart. So he's got a shot. We'll see how it plays out next Saturday night. Still got one to settle in Atlanta tonight in a very interesting situation. 4 cars did not pit. Hamlin, Truex, Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth. Kevin Harvick first off the pit lane, restarts in 5th position. There will be 46 laps to go in the race. How wild will this restart be, and what's the next line in the story of this Atlanta race going to be?
Ready to go. Ready to start.
Keselowski on the move on fresh tires in that 2 car, up to 4th.
Jeff Gordon has some fresh tires. He's trying to make a move towards the front.
And Harvick on the fresh tires, losing a couple spots on the restart exchange.
Martin Truex getting back to that line that was helping him run Denny Hamlin down for a couple of cautions ago. Low. See Kenseth sideways out of 2.
And while we watch this, Ryan Newman treated and released from the infield medical center and has left the track without comment. High, low, middle, any place you can find grip to get to the front.
I think Gordon's car looks good. Now here's a race for the lead.
What a run off turn 2 on that high lane for Truex.
Well, he's really making a lot of speed running that middle to upper groove down in turns 1 and 2.
He made that look easy.
Wow, what a week this would be for him with contract extension for him. His sponsor coming back. Going to be in the chase. First time with Michael Waltrip Racing. A lot of racing together.
And his sponsor Napa, based here in Atlanta. And what a night it would be. Keselowski and Kyle Busch. That's for third and fourth place. Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth right behind.
Keselowski, one of those drivers that came in and got fresh tires with that. Just the spark that he was going to need. He's been solid all night, just not spectacular. Here's Gordon making a pass on the high side on Kyle Busch.
And at the back of that picture, Kevin Harvick has fallen back to 7th, restarted 5th. So how things have changed all of a sudden in this race. Truex is leading. Harvick was up there racing for the lead on the last restart. Now he's back in 7th.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I thought that he had really the best car. We saw that restart right when that wreck happened. It looked like he was going to be able to take the lead away from Hamlin. And then he had to come in there, or came in and got the tires. I thought he was just going to be really fast. And now he's fading. And we see the 2 car did the same thing. He's actually making a headway. It's the best we've seen him all night.
You just never know when you put those tires on, make a little bit of a change. Even though Goodyear does such a great job, they just might not react the same on your race car, and makes it more difficult.
We were told Ryan Newman had left without and would not comment. That is actually not correct. Ryan Newman is on the property, and while Jeff Gordon passes Brad Keselowski for third, let's hear from Newman with Shannon.
Well, Alan, we just showed Ryan the replay of the event, the wreck. Can you tell us what you saw?
I didn't see much. I know I got run out of room. It was not my fault, but it was just, racing. It looked like the 48 just ran everybody out of room, and it's unfortunate. Our U.S. Army Chevrolet, we had caught 2 bad breaks to the lucky dog. The one time the 27 got it like a half a lap before the yellow come out, and then the 99 caused it. He was the lucky dog by like a half a lap, and it was just unfortunate. We got one chore to do with the U.S. Army team, and that's go into Richmond and win. We've done it before. I can do it again.
So big picture, what are your thoughts? How do you now approach that race?
It all depends. I mean, if Kyle or Jeff win tonight, then there's no chance. But we still have a chance if they don't.
Thanks, Ryan. Alan?
All right, so Ryan Newman with a tough night in Atlanta.
Yeah, but give Ryan credit for coming out. That is tough. You get yourself in that position, and to stay around, give his thoughts. I commend him for doing that. There's Jeff Gordon. Seeing the Jeff Gordon of old sliding this race car around.
Really?
Yeah, he looks desperate.
Well, shouldn't he be?
He is.
Yeah. Saw those hands on that steering wheel inside this 24, very busy earlier in the race. They look just as busy now, but just getting better results for it, Vince.
Well, they have been working on this race car all night long. They fought loose, and then when the car got in traffic, it didn't handle appropriately. But Gordon said, if we can just get some clean air, I am bad fast in clean air. We've seen highlights of that. The key is he going to be fast enough to get to the front before the end of this race? Likes what he's got right now, and he is driving the wheels off of it.
5th place here. 17, Matt Kenseth. 18, Kyle Busch. Based on what people were telling me in the garage, whoa, look at that run Kyle got. Based on what people were telling me in the garage earlier today, I expected this 17 car to be a contender up front. We really haven't seen him there much of the night.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people talk about that. Now we see the 29 coming back into the picture a little bit. Is his car going to come back to him where he can make a run here in these last 35 laps? That's plenty of time for him to get there still.
And just something else to tie into this whole conversation. Those guys up front, like Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr., did they save enough fuel to get all the way to the finish?
Certainly going to be a question. Jeff Gordon's got plenty of fuel, and he's putting the gas pedal as far down as it'll possibly go right now, so he's not saving any. I think he's going to make this pass down here off of turn 2 probably.
And you can see from that view, first of all, what a run Gordon gets off the high side. Second, how far out ahead the leader, Martin Truex Jr. is.
Great work. All right, go get him, buddy.
So Gordon to second, 1.9 seconds behind Martin Truex Jr. This 56 car took the green flag tonight in 28th position on the grid. He's driven it all the way to the front. Our Goodyear superior performer on this night in Atlanta, Martin Truex Jr. leading the race with 33 laps to go in search of what would be not a big win, not a huge win, but a massive win. Wouldn't he jump up your list of potential championship contenders
No
a bunch with a win tonight?
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Atlanta, presented by Pennzoil, pursuing the latest oil technology because we love cars just as much as you do. And in part by Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving. And AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible.
We've just gone inside the final 50 miles of tonight's 500-mile NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race. Our telecast presented by Pennzoil. Martin Truex Jr. is out in front with Jeff Gordon in second place, trying to track him down. Truex looking for his first win of the season and his first win in some time. Gordon looking for a win that might possibly get him into the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Truex likely to lock himself in on points tonight regardless, as long as he finishes the race somewhere in this lead group.
Yeah, Gordon's got up there to second, but Truex just setting a torrid pace. He's up over 3 seconds ahead now, so he's been consistently faster than Jeff Gordon about the last 4 or 5 laps.
Casey Mears went to the garage a second ago, smoke billowing from behind his car. We remain under the green flag. There are 14 cars on the lead lap, a race that had precious few cautions in its opening 300 miles or so, had a little run of cautions here of late. And now as we get into the final laps, a play of pit strategy in those last couple of cautions sees the drivers who are running first and third on older tires and with less fuel aboard than the guy who's running in second, Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, the numbers are going to show about 10 laps on those tires, but most of those laps are caution laps. Really, one green flag lap is all the difference in the tires on the leaders, and like Jeff Gordon, he made a pit stop and got fresher tires.
56 car, 24 laps away from victory. Shannon, are they worried about fuel at all?
Well, Alan, 266 was the last lap that Martin Truex Jr. came down pit road. I'm looking in their pit box. They have a monitor that tells them when they will be out of fuel. They will be out of fuel on lap 325.8. So Chad Johnson is telling his driver to start saving right now, backing up some of those corners. He said it'll be easier to do it now than it will to be later in the race. So 325.8. What do you think about that, guys?
I think they're going to be okay. They did get, like I said, a lot of those caution laps to give them some cushion. And with this lead, he can back up on the throttle, try to save a little fuel, and heck, he might even run faster.
Scheduled distance is 325, but you always have to bank on the possibility of that green-white checker extension of the race.
Well, if that happens, I think he might be in trouble.
I don't want to make you nervous, but just back it up what you can, because now it's going to be easier to save now than later.
Like you got an egg under your foot, buddy, nice and smooth.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're calculating on this car and picking up all the fuel too. So I mean, that's cutting it awfully close. I know their strategy, but Martin can't help him out here because he still has a 3.4 second lead.
And just thinking out loud too, if we get a caution that sets up a green-white checker, they're all going to pit for tires anyway.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. But I guess whenever you hear that crew chief say, "I don't want to make you nervous," but it's got to make you nervous. Jeff Gordon running second. Denny Hamlin now 4.9 seconds behind the leader in third place. Got a lot of laps tonight, Hamlin. 99, second most on the night. barely. Brad Keselowski in 4th place. Never really got up there and contended for the lead tonight so far, but has had a very solid top 10 run all night long.
Yeah, he has. He's been in the top 10, and now he's solidly in the top 5, so they've had a good solid night, made good adjustments.
Kyle Busch led about 100 miles of this race. Had a restart where he slipped back into traffic and never really got all the way back to the front.
Yeah, the car's been okay, and as they get laps down, they're okay, but you know, just not the speed we expect. Here's the man that's kind of the mystery right now, Kevin Harvick, who just had such a strong car for so long in this race.
I think the track has changed some as it got cooler and cooler during the night. And I think it really came to Martin Truex. They obviously have made some good adjustments too, but I think it's kind of moved away from Harvick's team. They just don't seem to be as good this probably the last hour that they had been earlier.
Kevin led the most laps tonight by 2 over Hamlin, 101 of the 306 that we've run. And again, came down pit road from 2nd place at lap 275, restarted 5th, but has not moved forward any from there. It has been a long time since Martin Truex Jr. has been to victory lane. He's done it one time in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, June of 2007 at the Monster Mile in Dover. You could see some of the longest winless streaks, and Truex would slide right into the middle of that list if he can run it out and score the W tonight.
Yeah, looks like Harvick's car is coming around. He's always been good on the long runs tonight. I think it's going to be a little too late, though, in this run.
Still got those busy hands. We've watched Kyle Busch work really hard behind the wheel of this car tonight, Dave.
Absolutely true. Since the restart, however, it hasn't been handling right at all. Too tight, no turn early on, and then just about 5 laps ago, he reported, I'm losing rear lateral grip. So it's really not the race car that he could have driven forward. Instead, it's falling back.
And check that out. He's turning the wheels right in a left-hand turn at 153 miles an hour.
What makes this place so great. You just have to literally drive the wheels off of it. And yeah, when it's not handling, driver has a lot of work to do inside the cockpit.
Why do I have to save? I don't get it.
Well, we got 2 different things. We got a regular fuel mileage that says we're good, so I just want to make sure we don't run out of gas. There's nothing to lose.
All right, 10-4. You're making me nervous. You keep telling me to lift earlier, lift earlier, lift earlier.
I just don't want to run you out of gas, man.
Yeah, but if you got a 3.5 second lead, there's no reason not to save fuel right now. And so that's what he's telling. Chester's saying, look, just back off a little bit. And if he needs to run harder, he'll tell him.
Yeah, and he's backing off and still actually beating Jeff Gordon by about 1/10 of a second a lap.
Maybe a little element to this, couple elements. Chad Johnson's never won a race as a crew chief.
He's giving me 300 feet, 3.7 seconds back, 33.20.
And this is a team that can lock in on points tonight. And we heard Chad tell you on the pace laps, and as our in-race reporter, that they would go for the win tonight, but if it would mean doing something between finishing 1st and finishing 25th, or finishing 1st or finishing 5th, they would go the conservative route.
Well, he just said they weren't going to make a foolish gamble. They might gamble a little bit. They really want to get a win. He told me how much it really meant for them to get a win under their belt before the chase starts. But they weren't going to make a foolish gamble. And what they're doing right now is not foolish in any way. It's their numbers say they're good. They've been saving under caution. I think they're fine.
He's saving me 300 feet.
I do know
what it's... Don't get paid any extra to finish 3 seconds ahead.
I know what this is like. The last race I won with Dale Earnhardt Sr. was right here, and we had a big lead, and we were running low on fuel. And I said, just back off. We had a 10-second lead, and he kept going faster. And I said, look, it doesn't pay, just like he said, it doesn't pay anymore to win it by a bigger margin. All you got to do is just finish just in front of the second place.
Yep. It's 3.4 seconds right now ahead of Jeff Gordon for that 56.
Now, certainly looking at what's been a huge week already for Martin and his team. For their sponsor, for Michael Waltrip Racing, looking very much like they're going to have 2 of their cars locked into the chase after this night. Even with Clint Boyer's problems, he's going to be solidly in.
Yeah, Boyer had an electrical problem, had to change batteries earlier. He's 27th place, 4 laps down.
Comes Harvick on the move.
4th place there.
he's about almost 8 seconds behind the leader, but he is making up some spots.
Backing up another 100 feet.
I'll tell you, I know this. He is nervous. He wants to make sure. And you know what? They got the luxury. They have this lead, so use it up. That's the way you do it. Use it to your advantage. When he say back it up 100 feet, he's talking about his lift points getting in the corner. Back it up another 100 feet. And then he's monitoring lap times. He's seeing the monitor that's giving him accurate lap times. He knows if they need to pick it back up, he'll tell them.
Yeah, and as a driver, though, that becomes difficult. You know that.
Back it up for me.
But you get in a rhythm.
Touch the brake.
Your car is so good, he said he's not even touching the brake, but it's that good. It throws you off a little bit. That you feel like you've really slowed down tremendously, but he's still just as fast as the rest of the cars, pretty much.
And you want to know how fluid this whole championship wild card situation is?
He's lifting earlier and earlier every lap. I'm watching him. All clear. There he is ahead of you now. You can see him.
If somehow the 56 hiccups and the 24 wins, then Jeff Gordon leaps over Kyle Busch into that second wild card spot and puts the 18 in position of must win at Richmond next week. If. All these ifs. But that's the drama we're building up to for next Saturday night at Richmond.
We got a lot of drama right now. I mean, Gordon is just desperate for this. He wants to get this win. He can see the leader. He's not saving anything. And you got Truex up there trying to save a little fuel, give up a little bit of this lead. He needs to get that first win of the year.
Well, he was a little fortunate in getting his first win, so it would take a little fortune here, and that would be Truex running low on fuel here at the very end for him to get this one.
Talking about Jeff Gordon when the leaders in front of him tangled at Pocono, and Gordon shot through into the lead, caution out, rainstorm ends the race.
It's a dynamic interval. You can see Gordon catching Truex just a little bit at a time. But Truex is giving up just about the right amount. I've been watching his lap times. He got 7 laps to go. He's getting beat about a couple of tenths a lap. That's plenty of cushion.
Yeah, and he had some lap traffic there that was running kind of side by side. And he was a little more cautious as he got through that.
Seconds back. Just keep backing it up some more for me. Nothing to lose.
What a difference it would make going into the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup with a win under your belt versus still being frustrated and not having that victory. It'd change your whole outlook on your potential to win the championship.
I'm going to tell you something. Truex is a great guy, too. It's good to see him having this kind of year.
Said the biggest factor in the turnaround of this team for him was being asked by the team a year ago, April, to be involved in helping guide the direction of their car building and their competition and what they did and their competitive decisions. Said it was the coolest and proudest moment of his life, or one of. And it's felt such a special thing to him to see this team progress forward by trouble.
No.
Front straightaway, Jamie McMurray.
Way down, you're clear, caution south.
Well, he hit it hard.
That's all the makings of a right front. And this changes everything.
Oh, it does.
My luck. That's ready for to go at the line.
I think we're going to have to pit here.
Yeah, he has to. Everybody's going to pit behind him.
I don't think you can afford to take two either.
No, it's going to take 4 tires to get it done.
I talk about pressure points here. Driver, don't speed on pit road. Pit crew, get it done. The restart upcoming. And what's going to be a 2-lap sprint to the finish with a green-white checker overtime run. And a tough ending to a difficult night for Jamie McMurray.
See, this happened just in front of Mark Truex.
Wow.
Yeah, he did. He hit it hard.
All the way down on the bottom there. All the way down, you're clear, caution south.
You could hear the exasperation there on the spotter's voice.
Keith Barnwell, spotter from Truex. Yeah, you can just hear it. Caution's out. Oh.
Got 13 cars on the lead lap. Pit road is open. You talk about a money stop. This is a big one, Vince.
And this 24 team has had its issues in the pits this year. Alan Gustafson said we need to be perfect tonight. It's a little too tight on landing for Jeff Gordon, so they're going to go up one round on the track bar, give him 4 fresh tires, a tear off, so he's got a clear view as well. Shannon?
Martin Truex Jr. is in his pit box to call us for 4 tires. We're also going to put a little bit of tape on that nose. They said, Martin, you can do it.
Denny Hamlin gives up 3rd position, too tight at the start of the run. He'll get a wedge and air pressure adjustment to try to take the 11 back to the front. Look at the race off pit road, Alan.
Oh, this is going to be big. Think Denny Hamlin's got it, though.
If he didn't speed to get that, he'll be in good shape.
Puts Gordon on the inside on the restart.
Hamlin brought right back into it from 3rd place by the excellent work his pit crew has done all night, including right now when it counted perhaps most. And by that much.
I tell you, as a pit crew member, you live for that moment right there.
Well, our in-race reporter, I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet tonight because we've done so much running under the green, but Martin Truex Jr. is still up there, DJ. He's going to restart alongside Denny Hamlin.
Hey, Martin, Dale Jarrett, have a copy?
Yeah, man.
Well, I know that that wasn't what you were looking for. You've done a tremendous job, and obviously with all the green flag racing tonight, we hadn't had a chance to talk with you, but what a great run you've had here. Just going to have a couple of laps to get it done and going to be on the outside.
Yeah, we'll see here. That's, man, I sure didn't want to see that caution. You know, we had him covered, but such is life and seems to be my kind of luck when I'm leading. So we'll just do what we can do here. Car's been fast, man. The guy's done awesome. Napa Shocks Toyota's been smoking fast tonight, and it's been so much fun to drive it. You know, we're in the Napa's headquarters backyard, and we got a lot of folks here from Napa, and man, I sure want to win this thing for them, so we'll just do what we can. I ain't making no guarantees, but just do all we can do and see what happens.
Well, man, it looked like it was going to be there, almost a perfect week for you with everything taking place, but you really found something when you found that high line, didn't you?
I've always run high here, 1 and 2, but I found something a little bit different this year. The very high line really hadn't been super good all weekend, but I found something kind of in between there that's been working for me, and Chad's made some really good adjustments for me tonight, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens here, but sure is fun running up front and having this Napa Shocks Toyota up front challenging for a win. I really wish that caution didn't come out, but hopefully we can get us a good restart here, and we'll see what happens. That 11's been real good for about 5 laps, and takes me about 5 to get going, so not real sure what's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes here.
All right, Martin, thanks for talking with us. Good luck to you, buddy.
Want to go at the line.
Dave?
Catching up with Darian Grubb now. Darian, did you give him enough for a short run car to win this race?
We'll find out right here. He's been probably one of the fastest cars all night. We'll see what we got. It's all adjustments, man. Everybody did something different, so see what happens here.
How about the pit crew again?
Boys did an awesome job on pit road to put in this position for it.
It's like you guys said, all night long on pit road for this 11 bunch.
So Kurt Busch got the free pass. 5 cars just took a wave around to get back on the lead lap. Ambrose, Bain, Biffle, Logano, and Bobby Labonte. We are set to go for a green-white checker finish. If the race is under caution at its scheduled conclusion, scheduled distance, NASCAR extends the race to try and gives the fans a green-white checker finish. 2 laps of racing coming up to decide this thing. Jeff Gordon sitting on the inside of row 2 for the restart.
But go win this thing right now. You got to warrant the boast, man. Go win this thing.
Wouldn't put it past him.
Now, I like his spot, too. That inside lane's been getting going on the restarts.
And that's going to be the key, is the restart. Getting up to speed right here to see what he can do.
Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. Jeff Gordon, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Matt Kenseth, and 2 laps to decide it. Pace car is off. Who wins it? Truex struggles. Gordon bidding on Hamlin for the race lead. That's Dale Earnhardt Jr. looking for 4th place. On the inside, the white and blue car. Hamlin coming to the white flag. Can Gordon or Keselowski do anything with him? One more lap to go. Gordon desperately needs this win. Trying to get to Hamlin. Half a lap left.
Got a good run off, too.
Oh, he's got a great finishes at Atlanta off turn 4. Can he hook it up? No. Denny Hamlin takes the checkered flag and wins at Atlanta.
You got yourself a win in Atlanta, buddy. Awesome job. Big Crew, you got us that win. Big Crew. Got him.
Back-to-back wins for Denny Hamlin. And his 4th win of the season for the coach.
Hey, bud, nice job. Nice job, everybody.
Worst he can do is go into the chase tied, and that's if one of the other with 3 wins happens to win at Richmond next week. Right now, he's just sitting in the catbird seat.
Burn it down, man.
And what a great illustration of the team aspect of this sport.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely the pit crew. I mean, there were cars that showed here. I know Hamlin did a great job. That pit crew kept that car out front all night long. And, man, when it counted, they put one out there.
And that's what championship teams are made of, too. They step up when you have to.
Last year's championship crew chief, Darian Grubb. Now with Denny Hamlin preparing to launch another bid for a title. They've got back-to-back wins. Bristol last week, Atlanta this week, and Denny's home track in Richmond, where he's had so much success in the past, yet to come next Saturday night. Thrilling twist of plot in the final laps at Atlanta. We'll talk to the winner and some of the other top finishers when we come back in a minute. Well, after the fireworks tonight in Atlanta, it sets up quite the interesting situation for next Saturday night at Richmond. Who gets those wild card spots in the chase? Saturday night at the action track in Virginia's capital, and then it's on to the 10 races to decide the championship. Join us at the track. NASCAR.com/tickets or the phone number at the bottom of the screen. So SportsCenter coming up next with a lot of very interesting sports action throughout the day. A very interesting finish here in Atlanta tonight. Jeff Gordon gave it all he had, Vince. Came up one number short on that scoreboard.
Desperately needed the victory tonight to make the chase. They worked on the car all night long to get in position. How do you sum up that last restart and final couple laps, Jeff?
Well, we were pretty good on the short runs. The long runs were what hurt us, but I got everything I could ask for. You know, I got the restart I wanted, got to the outside. We're a little bit too tight. Denny was pretty good there, but he made a mistake off of 2, and I got a run on him, and I made a bad decision. You know, all night I was able to get the guys' quarter panels and get to the outside of them and stay there, and I should have just run in the back of them going into 3 and moved them up the racetrack. You know, we'd be sitting in victory lane right now and counting another win. You know, this chase is too important to be in it for me not to make a move like that. And, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to wreck them, but I would like to have had that one over again. But I got to thank DuPont for commemorating 20 years that I've been in the sport. This place has been very special to me, and it was very close to being special again here tonight. But still a great effort by the team. I mean, there were times where we were 11th, you know, or 12th. So you know, just to have a shot to win. I'm thankful for that. I just wish we could have done it again.
Shannon?
Well, Martin Truex Jr., we heard him on In Race Reporter. We knew that you did not want to see that caution. What happened on the restart?
Just spun the tires. All night long I had trouble on the outside. When I was on the outside, spin the tires. As soon as I went to third gear, it's really strange. I've never had that before in third. Usually get in second, and then you get to third, and you're okay. And I'd be okay in second, right there with him, and I get to third at the start-finish line. I just smoked the tires like a dragster. So it just wasn't meant to be again, I guess.
Martin Truex Jr. is in the chase, but just certainly not the night he wanted. Alan?
Shannon, he is in the chase. In fact, the entire top 9 are locked in on points, and Tony Stewart guaranteed at least a wild card. Denny Hamlin looking good for maybe a #1 seed in the chase after his 4th win of the season.
Clinches his way into the chase with a dominating win and erases an offer at Atlanta. What would you call this?
This is one I wanted real bad. Last week was a big one, no doubt about it. But you know, I've been really good here in Atlanta the last few years and not won. And you know, we just wore a splitter out, and I had nothing left there at the end. And so our car faded a little bit, but pit crew won me the race, and that's what a championship team's all about, is to having all those pieces of the puzzle put together. And this year, I think we have it all.
Fortune wasn't smiling your way with a couple of strategy situations here, and then what do you think when you got the final caution and knew you were going to pit?
It was a new lease on life. You know, I'm 70% happy for us, 30% sad for Michael and Martin Truex and those guys. Those are, one way or another, they're shape or form, they're teammates of ours and Toyota teammates. But I can't say enough for Gordon from Sport Clips coming on board for this race. Thank FedEx, everything they've done for 35 races of the schedule, and Coke, Sprint, Toyota, the Jordan brand, Wiley X, and the fans here. Gosh, this is a big win.
You've always been sort of a statement kind of guy. What do you think this tells the rest of the field about 2 weeks from now when the chase starts?
I don't have to say anything. Wins is all that matters.
Big W here tonight. Denny Hamlin, first time in victory lane here at Atlanta in fine fashion. Helen?
One more races than anybody else so far this season, and as we check the championship standings with 1 race to go until the chase, Tony Stewart guaranteed at least a wild card, so those spots are all taken care of.
Yeah, and I think those 9 might make it difficult for one of those drivers outside the top 10 looking to get a victory at Richmond next week.
Casey Kane could race his way into the chase or could fall out of the wild card, depending on how things unfold next Saturday night.
Going to be another wild one next Saturday night in Richmond.
It will be a lot of fun. Mac Tools U.S. Nationals tomorrow at noon on ESPN2, and Sports Center is next, and a huge racing weekend next weekend at Richmond when those final couple of spots in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup are settled, and it's all about one thing: win to get in. Denny Hamlin wins tonight at Atlanta. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.